Daughter acting strangely. So my 33 male, 12-year-old daughter has been acting in a very strange way for a while now. A little bit of background info: we live alone. Her mum left when she was 3 months old, and we both haven't seen her since. So, about a week ago, I came home from work and she was just sitting on the couch staring at me. Like always, I asked her how her day was, but she didn't answer back. Then I asked her if anything was wrong, since she usually is very cheerful and happy when I come home from work. She just shook her head no, and went up to her room. I went to the bathroom afterwards, and saw the floor had soap or shampoo all over it. Literally, all over it. I was obviously confused as to why that would happen, so I called her down to ask. When I inquired about it, she smirked and mumbled something under her breath, which I couldn't make out. I asked her in a firmer voice to explain what happened, but this time she ignored me and walked up to her room. I was very puzzled, but I told her that she had to either clean it or I would ground her. She has never done anything like this before, so I was perplexed. Another incident happened this morning at breakfast. We were both in the kitchen, I was making pancakes as she requested, and she was pouring water. Oddly, she kept pouring water and didn't stop. I only realized when I heard water dripping. I told her to be careful, as she was spilling water all over the floor, but she didn't react. I thought maybe she couldn't hear me, so I said the same thing louder, but she still didn't react. I had to come over and remove the glass from her hand. After that, she just went into the yard and sat on the grass. I tried talking to her and asked her what was wrong, but she burst into tears and ran into her room and locked the door. She refused to come out for hours, and I didn't want to scare her in any way by forcing her to come out. About 2 hours ago, she finally left her room and gave me a hug. I'm really confused why she's acting like this. I don't want things to become worse, so I felt that it would be best to stop whatever is wrong as early as possible. There aren't any school bullies or anything since she's homeschooled, and she sees friends every day in the summer, and she hasn't had any fights with any of them as far as I know. No online weirdos either, since I always monitor her smartphone usage. I have no idea why she could be acting like this, and it's really beginning to scare me. Any idea what can be wrong and how I can help her? And now in the comments, I don't want to be an alarmist, but does she or anyone in the family have a history of seizures? And OP replies, no, not at all. I'll get her a doctor's appointment to make sure though. Thanks. Of course. I know another person mentioned possibly starting menstruation, which was what I thought of when you mentioned the soap, but the zoning out while pouring water made me wonder if it's something else. I don't see the connection between periods and pouring shampoo all over the floor. I meant it in a way like maybe she started bleeding and panicked and tried to clean it up, but didn't use the right products, and it just made a soapy mess. I've got absence seizures. I blank out and will do things without knowing. It usually lasts 1 to 3 minutes, and then another 5 just getting my bearings. I have these too, but also grand mal seizures. I'm epileptic. I wish I'd known when I was younger. I'm 32 and just was finally diagnosed last week, 2 days before my birthday. I agree that he should have her checked for them. Pediatric nurse here, get a neurologist consult ASAP. This gives me big seizure or sleep disorder vibes. That was my thought too. Neuro before psych is a rule for me. This kid needs to get into a neurologist first and then a therapist, especially because the change was so sudden. And now back up to the post, we have an edit. Thank you all so much for your advice. I've made an appointment with a neurologist later today, and I will be taking her to a therapist. I will be updating you guys on what happens. A lot of people have been asking how her homeschooling works. She attends online school, which is on Zoom, and has private tutors which come by our house 3 times a week to address any issues that she may have. When she has tutors over, I never let them out of my sight. They sit at the counter, and I sit opposite of them just finishing up paperwork, so her tutors aren't essaying her or anything. Also, I'm not forcing her to be homeschooled. In fact, she refuses to attend in-person school. When she was 5 years old, I took her to school, and it was her first day. At first, she was very excited to go, but as soon as we arrived, she started crying and refused to leave her car seat. I felt bad, but I had to force her out of it, as I had work and nowhere to leave her. When I came to pick her up, I was informed she was still crying 7 hours later. She was sitting in the corner just sobbing, and from that day onwards, I decided that it would be best if she was homeschooled. It broke my heart seeing her like that. Fast forward to when she was 9, in the 4th grade, I recommended that she go back to in-person school, but she aggressively denied my suggestion. I obviously am not going to force my daughter to do something that she doesn't feel comfortable doing, since it's only going to make things worse. She has plenty of social interaction with friends and cousins her age. However, I'll check with her if she feels comfortable going back to in-person school now. And now, on to the update. So I took my daughter to a neurologist who thankfully assured us that nothing is wrong with her psychologically. No absence seizures, epilepsy, etc. But recommended that I take her to a psychiatrist when I told him about what has been happening recently. Her psychiatrist appointment is tomorrow morning, and I'm really looking forward to finding out the root cause of her recent concerning behavior. I asked her if she feels comfortable going back to in-person school, and said she'd think about it, which made me really happy since before, whenever I'd mentioned in-person school, she would get very defensive and upset. I also made it known to her that I'm always here for her if she ever wants to talk about anything, and that I would never judge her or criticize her. She told me that she knows that, and that she loves me. She seems to be looking forward to going to the psychiatrist. She wasn't too happy about the neurologist, but I assured her that it was for her own well-being. God, I feel incredibly relieved that she doesn't have seizures. Thank you all so much for the support. We'll update after the psychiatrist visit. Psychiatrist update. So, as it turns out, my daughter started her first period. When we got to the psychiatrist's office, my daughter requested that I wait outside after we finished talking about what happened because she wanted to tell the psychiatrist something. I'm glad she did. Basically, the psychiatrist told me everything. The soap was because she was dripping blood everywhere when she was freaking out about the blood. She knew a little bit about periods, but freaked out because for some reason the blood was brown. My poor baby said she had stayed up for days worrying about how I'd feel once she passes away. God forbid, and the water incident because she felt something drop down there, which I assume was more blood. I feel bad about how I missed this, and I wonder how she hid it so well. My sister is now in the other room talking to her about periods, how to deal with them, the feelings associated with menstruation, etc. I'm incredibly glad that it's nothing serious like seizures, epilepsy, etc. My daughter seems to be way happier now, and I am loving it. We, along with her aunt, went to get her a period starter kit after the appointment, and she seemed really excited. After that, we all went to get milkshakes and just chilled for a bit. Everything is great now. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for everything. Forgot to mention, she's decided to go back to in-person school, which I am over the moon about. And now in the comments, oh my god, first period terror. I also thought I was dying the first time, despite knowing that periods were a thing ahead of time, because no one prepared me for the amount of blood. My first thought was she started period. I wasn't freaked out when I started mine, but my little brother acted the same way when he thought he did. Apparently my mom did such a great job explaining periods to me, when my brother fell and hit himself on his bike, he thought that he started his period because he was bleeding down there. Took me 2 days to realize he was stealing my pads and acting weird, so I asked him what was up. I laughed so hard when he said that he started his period. Anyhow, he was pretty messed up down there, so had to tell Mum and get him to a doctor. That's cute and terrifying at the same time, lol. Your mum did too good a job. Hope your brother was okay? He was okay after a few weeks. No lasting damage, and I now have a 4-year-old niece. The sat on the couch staring at me and mumbled something and then ran away, combined with the soap and shampoo all over the bathroom, made me instantly think first periods. I was surprised his first stop was a neurologist. And edit, don't get me wrong, Dad rocks for getting the daughter the help he thought that she needed immediately. I'm just surprised he and Reddit didn't automatically suggest first periods. I'm a woman, and I didn't twig that it was her period, although it makes sense. I have depersonalization and dissociative disorder, and it reminded me of having an episode. I'm glad that she's not dealing with that though. It's really scary and horrible. I'm glad that it had a simple and happy ending. Our next post is titled, "My brother writes notes to me and my little sister pretending to be our mom, and he doesn't know that we know." So my dad isn't in the picture, and my mom works very long hours every day, so she's usually gone by 7 and comes back at around 8. She's still a great mum though, and I love her very much. One day, I, 15 female, found a note in my bag the day of a major exam from my mum telling me not to give up and that she's proud of me no matter what. It really made me happy, but the handwriting was a bit wonky. I didn't think much about it. A while later, I catch my brother, 20 male, packing something into my bag at night. I play it off and pretend that I don't think much about it. The next day, I find another note in my bag. And then I realized my little sister, 7 female, had been getting notes too from mum every day because I was helping her pack her bag in the morning one time. She told me that I know it's from him, but I still like them. My brother always puts on this bad boy front for everyone, like, I don't care about anything, and I wear leather jackets. So it's super sweet and kind of funny to think about him writing in wonky cursive and drawing heart shapes at night. He has no idea that we know, and I don't plan on telling him. I don't really use Reddit, but I think that it's just really sweet, and I got another note this morning. And now in the comments, man, if he ever gets married, you have got to give a speech and tell this story. And OP replies, yup, he already has a girlfriend, who is amazing by the way, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna tie the knot because they've been dating for so long. This is definitely going on my list of things to say in my speech, if I make one. Mention the notes, but play it off as your mum really writing them, like she was meant to be, until you call him mum at the end and let him know that you knew all along. Haha, brilliant. So if we could all raise our glass for mum, thank you for keeping our hearts warm all of these years with your little notes. And I would also like to thank my mum for raising my brother to be such a loving mother. And OP says, that's smart. I'm gonna write that down for the future. This is most definitely the best thing I've read all day. You have an amazing brother who really loves and cares about you. And OP says, thanks. He's the best and helps us with a lot of stuff. He doesn't show it much, but I can tell he really cares about us when he does small things like this. Is your brother single? Pay attention, ladies. She already one step ahead of the game. Tough economy. That girl got up early. OP says he's off the market. Them good bad boys get snatched up early. And now on to the update. I'd like to thank all of you who left kind words for my brother and all of the awards and upvotes. So this isn't the most exciting of updates, but this post got kind of viral and my brother actually saw it on TikTok. Yeah, it was an awkward conversation to have, but he said that you guys are all really wholesome and he thanks you for your compliments. As for his reaction, I don't know if he's going to see this, but he shrugged it off like it was no big deal. But I can tell he was secretly really pleased. By the way, some of you who asked if my mother knew, I actually didn't ask her, but she told me when it came up the other day that my sister already showed her his notes. She thinks it's really cute too. He doesn't do the mum thing anymore, but I think he figured that we still like getting notes from him, so he still leaves them. Just not signed off by my mum. He writes his normal handwriting, and the notes aren't as cheesy, but they are still really sweet. Sorry if you were expecting a wedding post or something. And now in the comments, he sounds ridiculously adorable. What a wonderful and pleasant thing to read after going onto Reddit for the first time today. I don't think it can get much better than this, so I should probably just put my phone away and enjoy some time outdoors. I swear, I cry reading posts for the oddest reasons. The thought of a bad boy cheering his sisters on in so wholesome a way and trying to pass it off as mum is just so sweet. My eyes. And edit, seeing several other people mention tearing up as well makes me really happy. Such a wholesome post, and I'm not a weirdo. Yay. I think it's especially cool how he kept it up after being found out. I think it's a great example of how a man can be multifaceted. It's not just be a tough guy, and however they chose to define that, but also cultivating a softer side that includes really gratifying family bonding behaviors. Some will call it getting in touch with their feminine side and shy away from it because that's the only term they can come up with to define this side of themselves, but it's not about femininity at all, really. It's just being an individual of integrity who is willing to explore their needs. I think this young man learned that entire concept in that single act of love. He hid it behind the mother, and then eventually realized it doesn't have to come from her. That kind of love can come from him as well, and people will accept it and him with open arms. It's cool stuff. Am I the asshole for helping my brother run away from his wedding? I have 2 older brothers. This is about the middle one. Our parents divorced when I was very young due to our mother's insane jealousy. At first, my dad was able to handle it, but when she started making comments about me wanting to be like his wife, he had enough. She quickly rebounded with a guy with 2 kids and had shared custody for a while. But when my dad got remarried, she went crazy, calling his new wife every horrible name and claiming that he was cheating on her while they were married. I was always closer to my brothers and dad than my mum because she was always very mean to me. Long story short, my stepmom died in a bad car accident, and my dad called her in the middle of the night letting her know that he would pick us up earlier so we could attend the funeral, and she decided to take us on a fun trip to celebrate something. It was the happiest we've ever seen her, and when we realized what happened and started crying, she told us only worthless people cry for hoo-hway. Can't say that word, starts with WH though. Needless to say, things went nuclear, and my dad asked for full custody with visitation from her. He always left the line of communication open and paid for us to visit her when she moved away, but it was still very bad, and as soon as we turned 18, we started to lower contact with her. Last time we saw her was on my high school graduation, where she made a point of letting everyone know who would hear that we were ungrateful kids, and her HB would call us bad names too. We've been no contact since then. My brother Sam started dating his ex 3 years ago. She's heard all the stories and the reasons why we are no contact, but she believes that we are just dramatic. They had many issues due to her opinions, but she eventually seemed to drop the "you need to reconcile with your mother" crusade. During the wedding planning, there was no indication of things going wrong or fishy. Then we got to the church and lo and behold, Mum, HB, and 2 kids were sitting at the front. I immediately panicked and called my brothers. Sam thought that maybe somehow she found out and wanted to crash, so he called his ex to let her know of the potential drama, but she told him that it was fine since she invited them. Sam hung up and asked me to go get him while the oldest brother dealt with things at the church. We went home and barricaded ourselves there, even when his ex, her family, friends, etc. came to try and make sense with him. Mum's HB even called and said that he always knew that we were worthless. Now that the dust has settled, most of Sam's friends are on his side, and so is most of our family. Dad's. Ex's parents already threatened to sue for the money they paid if he doesn't marry her, but Sam says he would rather pay them back for their contribution than marry someone that betrayed him. My nuclear family 100% supports Sam, but the backlash has been huge. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I'm beginning to wonder if I'm the asshole for the way that we helped Sam run away from the wedding, since despite what his ex did, she was humiliated. We were not thinking about her at all, and maybe we could have done it in a better way. Now in the comments, not the asshole. She did not respect your brother's wishes and feelings for his ideal concept of so-called happy family. She was selfish and ruined everything. Not the asshole, and it sounds like Sam dodged a bullet. Sorry that he had to learn about his fiancée on his wedding day, but at least he found out she isn't to be trusted before the vows. Best of luck to your family, and stay strong. Not the asshole. You, Joe, and Sam did the right thing. She didn't just betray Sam. She planned it and concealed her betrayal until she thought that he'd be in too deep to do anything about it. Take care of each other. What the ever-loving hell? Not the asshole, OP. You did absolutely the right thing, and I'm glad to see how your real family and Sam's friends rallied to support you all. Ex-fiancé screwed around and found out, and her father's crap out of luck if he wants to sue Sam. Most courts would call paying for a wedding a gift, and even if they didn't, they would never force Sam to marry against his will. If he ends up having to pay a portion, I'd be really surprised. But stranger things have happened. He may be heartbroken now, but that's one hell of a dodged bullet. Ex-fiancé is the queen of assholes for this crap. Absolutely unconscionable. And now back up to the post, we have an edit. You guys just reassured us all. Thank you. Some have commented about it, but no, she has not apologized. She even went so far as to text my oldest brother Joe that she thought that it would be a good wedding present from my brother to her since she values family. My dad bought them a house as a wedding present, but only Sam is on the deed. She did have keys for when they moved there, but they just had the locks changed today, and Joe and some cousins are taking everything Sam owns from her flat during this week. We aren't worried about being sued, but will consult a lawyer just in case. We also heard Mum and her family are still in town, but since we are all staying at our childhood home for a few days, we don't care. My dad is sad that Sam is heartbroken, but is trying to cheer him up along with my boyfriend and my sister-in-law. I had to delete and deactivate my social media because I kept getting nasty comments and messages. But the more people learn the reason Sam ran away, the less it gets. I am still sorry that she felt humiliated, but my brother comes first. Edit 2. We are 34, 32, and 28. Ex-sister-in-law is 30, and we are not in the US. I asked Joe about the church aftermath, and it was just as I expected it. He said he stood up in front of everybody and told them Sam was not coming and to please go home, and that all of their gifts delivered to our side of the family will be given back ASAP. The ex was still outside the church when someone in her family informed her, and she started screaming and crying and calling Sam non-stop. Mum tried to talk to Joe, and he didn't even look at her. And when she couldn't get a reaction out of him, she started crying loudly and lamenting how horrible we are to her, and some people started consoling her. This is her MO, but Joe and his wife didn't care. When they went out of the church, the ex was expecting them and demanding to see Sam, but Joe said no. Then she demanded to know what to do with the party, and he said that if she didn't want the venue, he would arrange for the food to be donated to the staff there so it wouldn't go to waste. Everybody was screaming except Joe because he didn't want to give Mum the satisfaction. They, Joe and sister-in-law, came home after stopping at the supermarket and some fast food joints, and we've been inside like we are kids again, plus 2 more members. We asked Sam if he wanted them to go, but he said he wanted them there. We had all taken time off to spend family time after the wedding anyway, so it's not a problem at the moment. When the ex came to the gate, we knew she was not going to use the venue, so my sister-in-law called them with Sam's info, told them to take the food, and also sent them some tips for the trouble. It seems we will get back all of the alcohol that my dad paid for, so we will have a very drunk end of the year. A couple of people messaged me asking why did our dad ever marry our mum, and the answer is he really loved her and believed she was the nicest person ever. Turns out she wasn't, but she knew that nobody, except I guess her nasty husband, would marry her unless she pretended to be nice. He considered staying with her until we were adults, but she kept getting worse. She used to get very nice, and he thought that she was changing, and then she would change again. As per my ex-sister-in-law, we have no doubt that she believes Mum is a nice person that has ungrateful children because she is extremely charming, and for some people, is funny to make fun of others, as long as it's not directed at them, but it still doesn't excuse X. The only person Sam gave an explanation to was his boss who was at the church, but he is very understanding, and was pretty shocked of what Mum put us through, since we are fairly well-adjusted, happy people. Our dad said that it was a shock for all of us, and we can stay home as long as we need. Sam is moving home for the time being. I showed my family the post, and they are moved by your niceness, but Sam wants you to all know that X wasn't showing any concerning behaviors, and he truly believed that she understood his upbringing. He agreed to talk to her and her parents today, but only if it's at our home. And we are there to support him, so it's going to be an interesting visit. And now on to the update. First, some extra info. Sam lost some money, but it's not going to hurt him. Her parents paid for her dress, a very fancy cake, and a part of the honeymoon. X wasn't the most beloved in-law, but we truly believed that she loved Sam. We have no contact with Mum's side, and Joe used to have some with Grandma, but after his wedding, which was another crap show that we avoided, he cut her off too. Mum's comments about me wanting to be the wife came from her belief that it was not right for us to have daddy-daughter days or outings. The thing is, there were also Daddy Joe days and Daddy Sam days. He always tried to spend time with us alone and as a group. She is just sick. We don't advertise our childhood, so when people ask us about our parents, the standard answer is, just my dad, or it's just my siblings and my dad. Most people assume that Mum is dead, and it helps avoid the whole inquiry about not talking to her. Mum's stepkids are both male and in their early 30s. Dad has a long-term girlfriend, and we like her a lot. She's been doing her own stuff these past few days, but she says that we have her full support. Now to the update. I was wondering why Sam accepted the meeting after not even talking to her, but it turns out she sent videos and photos of all of his things on the floor to his best friend Tom, and told him that Sam either talked to her or she would burn/destroy it all. Tom came to visit Sam, told him what happened, and they informed her that they need access to the flat before anything happens. Tom, Joe, a couple of cousins, and my boyfriend went to take his clothes, electronics, important paperwork. Sam said he didn't care about the rest, and even made a little joke about them being the fastest moving crew that he knew. The meeting was, for a lack of a better word, a ridiculous event. She came with her parents and sisters, tried to talk to Sam alone, but when he didn't allow it, she just started talking. Not once did she apologize. She said that it's not her fault that we don't understand the value of a real family and we were raised to hate mothers. That her only intention was for Sam to learn to value mothers because she was scared that he would take her children away from her because that is what he was taught to do. Sam didn't say anything until she threw the, "This family is like a cult, and you're a terrible father," looking at my dad. As you may imagine, this is a sore spot for all of us, and we don't allow insults toward our dad under any circumstance. Sam just unloaded about how she was a hateful liar. He was disgusted he ever touched even her hand. He was grateful to the universe that I am chronically early to everything. He told her staying with a cheating husband as her mum does is nothing to be proud about. He said she pretended to be nice just so he would marry her, unloaded all of the minor things that he was willing to overlook because he truly did love her, or at least who he thought that she was. He said he would never forgive her for the hurt that she caused his siblings, but he doesn't hate her because that would require him to spend energy thinking about her, and she doesn't get that. At the end, he said that she had enough time to clear things, and since she has acted like a victim, he will be the one to let everybody know why he didn't show. It was brutal but cathartic and necessary for Sam. Her parents said nothing, but they were very red. She was crying. Her sisters attempted to defend her and their parents' relationship, and were kind of expecting my whole family to argue too, but we didn't. Then Sam told his ex-father-in-law that he could sue if he wanted, but if he did, Sam would expose all of his family's dirty laundry to the world, and he doubts that he wants that. Amazingly, the dad still argued Sam could try and make amends and marry his ex because they're not getting any younger, and all families fight. I've never rolled my eyes harder. The rest of the meeting went about logistics for the return of the wedding gifts already received, stopping the harassment from their family, the cancellation and refund of the honeymoon, and the changing of the locks. X just kept crying and trying to talk to Sam, but he was in business mode and didn't want anything from her. He only replied to her directly when she said that she was keeping her engagement ring with, "Nobody asked for it." Oh my god. They left without issues. When the booze was delivered, Mum and husband sneaked through the gate when we opened it. She said she just wanted to talk to her babies, and my dad asked her to leave. She kept screaming that he raised us wrong, and we just embarrassed her with our behavior. She couldn't believe we were such bad people, and we should start making amends with her because we clearly lack maternal love. She got that right. And this was the pathetic result. At that point, Joe went out and told her to leave since the police were on their way. She took it as an opportunity to cry since it's the first time in about a decade that he talked to her and tried to sweet talk him into going to grab dinner with her and her husband. But Joe just told her to leave, and the only news he ever wanted to hear related to her were the ones about her funeral so he could go celebrate. Cue hysterical crying and screaming from the husband, demanding an apology and threatening to hit Joe. Dad and Joe went back inside and left them there until we saw they left and closed the gate. It is hard for some people to understand why we react like we do, but the things I wrote about our mother are just like the tip of the iceberg. Dad wasn't exactly proud of what Joe said, but he understood that he needed to let it out, and he was speaking for all of us. Maybe that makes us bad people, but we truly don't want to see this woman ever again. We are all going to have some family therapy besides our individual ones. Sam doesn't want the house anymore, but my dad says to take it slow, and the first step is to mend his heart. We've had horror movie marathons and some Disney classics sprinkled here and there. We also had a drama bingo thing going on of all of the things that could possibly happen, because I guess we are truly dramatic after all. We love each other, and we were raised to treat people well, but we can be petty when pushed. I also feel better knowing that she humiliated herself, and while I wouldn't wish to be left at the church to anybody, I would do it again because I love my brother more than I feel bad for her. We will be going on a family trip eventually, but right now, we will continue our staycation. To the person that said Joe is a hero, his siblings couldn't ask for a better brother and friend. We've read everything so far. Thank you for letting me vent, the awards, the PMs, and I'm sorry if my English was not up to the standards. Joe and Sam's names are obviously fake, but Daniela, go F yourself. Little note, my brothers are reading your messages and comments. They want you to know that we know how lucky we are. They appreciate the positivity, want you to know that it gets better, those in the same boat, and you're all welcome to our cult. And now in the comments, thanks for the update. The way you guys dealt with the situation is perfect. There is no need to spend your time and energy with toxic people. The best revenge is just to cut them off and live a good life. OP responds, we will try our best. There is mention of a cool trip for the holidays, but at the moment, we're considering a party to use the booze, but are debating how sensible that would be. Was that as good for you as it was for me? OP says, it was. Sam might be heartbroken, but he would never go back with her, not even if she had apologized. Just to be clear, definitely not excited about your brother's heartbreak, but I was sufficiently satisfied that these people were kicked to the curb. And if there's a silver lining for Sam, and the rest of your family I suppose, is that he got rid of this scumbag before he was married and or had kids with her. OP says, no worries, I'm happy to say that he got his piece too. This might be stupid, but who is Daniela? Can I curse at her too? Of course you can. Daniela is the ex's real name. Aha, go F yourself, Daniela. And now onto update 2. First, more clarifications. Joe wasn't parentified. To the person who wrote me a mean essay about it, here is the answer. My brothers spent time with me because they wanted to, we had special days together or with each other. They did all the activities they wanted, had many friends, went on trips with me or alone, etc. There were nannies, family, my dad. They were never forced to take me with them against their will. They had a lot of freedom within reason. My parents divorced when I was 3. And even if there was shared custody, we stayed 90% with Dad, and we never visit with our mother unless we were in at least pairs. The only times Joe or Sam visited her after turning 18 was when I requested to visit because they didn't want me to go alone. We've all been in therapy for a very long time. We are just having special sessions because we saw our mother, but Joe is the only one that interacted with her. Also, please know that we, Sam and I, know how to defend ourselves and didn't ask Joe to confront her. He did it by himself. Why didn't my dad go to the church with Joe? Well, That's because he was asked by Sam to go home. We didn't think that he needed to see that woman, even if he had to talk to her after. Sam has cried. He's not a monster. He's heartbroken. He thought that he would spend the rest of his life with Daniela, he thought that he was a good judge of character, and he thought that he didn't have to see our mother ever again. There are many emotions going on, but because of our upbringing, we are very good at keeping our emotions in check in front of people that we don't trust or like. It was a survival skill that we developed to deal with how we were treated. Joe had a relationship with Grandma, but stopped talking to her after she invited Mother as her +1. Joe had a relationship with Grandma, but stopped talking to her after she invited Mother as her +1. There was no religious ceremony. The venue had security, and there was a no entry list. He sent Grandma a letter and didn't talk to her again. We also didn't attend her funeral. The wedding was about 250 guests. When making the wedding list and sitting charts, she used other names, which is how we didn't know about it. Daniela is not Brazilian, and my dad requested that I inform you all that his kids are not alcoholics. He's worried that people think that, even if it is anonymous, lol. Anyway, this week has been really chaotic. Those who said to be prepared for the pregnancy tactic were incredibly accurate. She posted it online. People were freaking out again and calling Sam, asking him if it was true. Sam called her and asked that she deleted it. She continued claiming she was pregnant. He asked her to delete it and to come talk about it. She deleted it, met up with Sam, and somehow this crazy woman thought that he wanted her back. I went with Sam. She was very happy until she saw me enter the place. She started crying, holding her stomach, and when Sam asked her if she really was pregnant, she said yes, and told him that she didn't want her child to be from a broken family. Sam told her they were going to the doctor immediately to know for sure, and she cried even more, screaming he didn't trust her. Long story short, she isn't pregnant. But she posted that Sam was forcing her to have an abortion, and she was devastated. As you can imagine, this was a horrible thing to say, and people were calling Sam because they are so whiplashed from the drama, they don't know what to believe anymore. When my sister-in-law Anna found out about the posts and the meet, she called Daniela. I'm unsure what was said in that conversation, but I also never saw Anna this angry. The posts are down, but Anna wrote an email with all the relevant information, including that Daniela was never pregnant, and sent it to everybody on the wedding list. This morning we heard Daniela had a breakdown after leaving voicemails, telling Sam if she couldn't be with him, then she wanted to die. This is another tactic straight out of our mother's playbook, and Sam simply called the police and told them what had happened. Her family forced her into therapy, and she's in observation right now. It brings us no pleasure that it came to this, but we don't want to get involved anymore. We are also changing our numbers. We've already requested it. Our mother emailed Anna threatening to sue her for defamation regarding the email blast, but we're not worried about it either. Anna's parents are amazing, and they've made it perfectly clear that they are on our side and 100% agree with the way that she handled things. Joe was enraged, but Anna convinced him to let it go and simply move on. Mother's husband has been a peach as usual. Dad is considering a restraining order, but they are not great in our country. We did have a get-together at home yesterday, and it was a lot of fun. There was karaoke, dancing, nice food and drinks, games, and bouncy house because, why not? We love them. Most people avoided the topic of the wedding in the posts, but those who brought them up did so tactfully. Dad had already given away a lot of the alcohol to his employees. They got to choose what they wanted and got a bottle each. He is also adding bottles into his Christmas baskets this year. We are going to spend the holidays together and traveling. I told Sam about the new paint for the house, but he just doesn't want to live there. He will rent it. I made a joke about me simply eloping or not having a proper wedding to avoid drama, and Joe told me in no uncertain terms I get the biggest party ever if I choose to. So yeah, he's still the best. Thank you for the nice comments and messages, not thanking the mean ones, the awards and the interest. And sorry to the nice Danielas out there, the FU wasn't for you. And now onto the final update. Thank you for all your interest. You were very nice, and it's always a blast logging in and updating you and your cult. First, some points. I do read every single comment, message, etc. Some commented I particularly lacked a feminine figure in my life, but I had my grandma, aunts, etc. My dad's girlfriend, Rita, is not a mother figure, and I don't feel that I'm a bad woman because of it. When I had my period and told my dad, he had a whole thing prepared. Then he informed my brothers, and each had a whole thing prepared themselves. They each had their own approach, and the others didn't know about it. Long story short, I had 3 men taking care of it and doing even a presentation about it. It might sound super awkward for me, but it was even more awkward for them. It is a hilarious story and reminds me how much they thought about me all the time. Rita is amazing, and we love her, but she has no problem not being married to my dad. My dad doesn't want to get married again. If he did, we would support him. Daniela is okay. Her sisters tried to make a huge drama and accuse us of being horrible, but after the email sent by Anna, nobody is buying it. One of them was also dumped by her boyfriend because he didn't want to be related to a toxic family. I will not disclose where we live or what our dad does for a living, so please don't ask about it again. We have new numbers, new social media handles, and are planning to move, Joe and I. Also, I do have a little note with fake real names relation, and do type my posts in Word. It's mainly so I don't mess up my ramblings. My dad wants you all to know your applications to the cult have been accepted. Anyway, I checked the last update, and I can't believe that it was only in early November. I have mainly good updates for you. Sam is doing well. He is taking time off work, his boss is very understanding about him needing time, and told him he can always come back there. He is still living with Dad, and has savings, so he's not worried about that aspect. He's running now, and has decided to run a marathon next year. He is more and more his goofy self, and is doing renovations at home. Or in other words, Dad and Sam are trying to paint some rooms and do murals. It is hilarious, and they have a lot of fun. Daniela wrote him a letter, but he sent it back. The house was put on the market as a rental, and he's okay with it. I'm engaged. It turns out it has been months in the making, and when I made the joke about eloping, my future husband Matt panicked that I discovered the plan. He spoke with Sam, who already knew of the plans because he didn't want to make him uncomfortable, but Sam said it would actually make him uncomfortable if he didn't. He also spoke with Joe and my dad. My dad made him sweat when he asked for my hand, saying that it was not his to give, but they said that it was all in good fun. It happened earlier this month. I am very excited, but not as much as my dad. He says he wants to walk me down, even if it is a civil wedding. While my news is amazing, I believe the other news around is better. Joe and Anna have been on the adoption list for a while, and as of a couple weeks ago, have a new baby. She is the most beautiful, sweet, best baby ever. The adoption is final, as it usually is in our country for newborn or almost newborn babies. We knew that they wanted to adopt for a while, so when they told us about the baby being officially theirs, it was a lot of crying, but happy crying. Dad is in full grandpa mode, and even as bad as some of the things got this year, this is the best thing that has happened to our family in years. Mum did learn about the baby and demanded an introduction. She has been served our version of an order of protection. She is never putting her eyes on her if we can help it. That's the bad news. Due to the new COVID, we decided to stay home. Now with the new addition that we wouldn't travel, of course. We had a Christmas/welcome baby/baby shower/engagement small gathering last weekend, which Joe and niece didn't attend since she is too young, but they were there via Zoom. We all agreed to give Sam some goof gifts, such as t-shirts, mugs, sweatshirts, etc. of Julia Roberts, since, he is the runaway bride of the family. The reason Joe and I are considering moving is that we live in flats at the moment and we want to live in houses. We are still shaken up and we know that we have work to do, but we know that we have so much and we want to focus on that because the negativity is in the minority. and no matter what happens, I am always grateful for my family. I believe that this will be the last update, folks. I know the last ones have been mainly drama-free and might not be as exciting, but we aim for that. Not planning on deleting anything, the account will be here in case something worth updating happens. I wish you all the best end of year and an amazing 2022. And now in the comments, Sam straight up almost accidentally married his mom 2.0. Sam be like, I don't talk to my mum because she's a bad person. For example, when my stepmom died, instead of letting us grieve with dad, she took us away from him and verbally abused us when we cried about stepmom's death. Daniela retorts, let me invite this woman to my wedding against your wishes, because I know your mum better than you do. What a terrible thought process. It's basically like saying, I'm going to force you to be with your abuser because it makes me happy. When my stepmom died in a car crash, my mom asked her own parents to come help her tell us, because she was devastated. She cried and mourned with us because she had empathy and love for us and someone who was our family. When I read that part of the top, I knew everything that I needed to know about this mother. I made a terrible error in my relationship with my now husband by thinking that I could help him patch things up with his mom and help him develop a relationship with her again. She wasn't nearly as bad as OP's mom, but there were a lot of issues there. People need to listen to and trust their partners when they set boundaries about family. Not all families are the same, and there's often so much hurt hiding behind the scenes. Joe and his wife get the brother/sister-in-law of the year award. Can you imagine standing in front of that freight train of psychosis and calmly explaining that there won't be a wedding in 10 minutes? That whole family is filled with rock stars. I wish my family was half that close and supportive. I would love to have been a fly on the wall during that conversation between Anna and Daniela after Daniela claimed that Sam forced her to get an abortion. Joe and Anna are both incredible, and they're going to be amazing parents. Quote, Joe went out and told her to leave since the police were on their way, and she took it as an opportunity to cry since it's the first time in about a decade that he talked to her and tried to sweet-talk him into going to grab dinner with her and her husband. And this is why you can't ever let those people back into your lives, even a little bit. Joe's like, hey, I've called the police because I want you to leave and never see you again. And she's like, my son loves me and we're best friends now. I'm so happy. Correct. You just never open that door. They will never let you close it again. This is precisely why I can't accept any form of communication from my mum. When I was pregnant, she mailed a bunch of my baby keepsakes to my home, through a family member after 3 others refused to do so. I had to send it all back because accepting the package meant her crazy would ramp right back up. One of the mementos was a hand-knitted sweater from a grandmother who was no longer living. That one stung, but it's better to not receive it than to deal with my mum again. Am I the asshole for keeping a massive secret from my parents? So my parents, female 66 and male 70, and I, female 32, have had a bit of a strained relationship since I was young. My sister was always favored, while I was treated as the maid, which is why I left home as soon as I could. Over the years, our relationship has had its ups and downs, but I would never describe our family dynamics as being particularly normal or healthy. I married my husband, male 36, when I was 23, and my parents just about hit the roof. They have never really taken a shining to him and have threatened to disown me if I went through with the marriage. When he and I would visit their home, he would be subject to the same expectations as I am, whereas my sister gets to put her feet up and relax. Needless to say, my husband does not hold my parents in particularly high regard. My parents emigrated overseas about 10 years ago, and my husband and I have only seen them 3 times in person since. We do chat over FaceTime and Zoom semi-regularly, but the relationships all function better if we aren't breathing down each other's necks. Recently, my husband and I bought our first house, and we are over the moon. We plan on growing our family, and we now have the space and the garden to do so. I am beyond thrilled. My parents are kept on a strict information diet, and we did not tell them that we had bought. mostly because they are renting a storage unit not far from us, and we did not want the drama of my parents wanting, expecting, to store all of their furniture in our new house. We also did not tell them that our new house is much more spacious than our old place. As far as my parents are aware, we just moved because it's closer to my husband's job. Unbeknownst to me, my parents have been in the country for about a month and ran into a childhood friend, Dee, female 34 of mine, yesterday. Dee told them that I had invited her to coffee today, and it would be so lovely if they came with her, and surprised me. Dee had no way of knowing that I had not told my parents about the spacious new house until they all walked through the front door, and my mum lost her mind at me. The main points from my mum's yelling was that our relationship has been good recently, so how could I have kept this secret from them? My husband and I were selfish to have all this space, with no regard for the fact that they are renting a storage unit, and that my parents are hurt that I don't include them in all parts of my life. Unfortunately, my husband arrived home not long after the tirade started, and he told them to stop making a scene under his roof. That is when the other shoe dropped that we have bought instead of rented. Ultimately, my parents left after telling me that a true daughter would never keep secrets like this, and I am left feeling like everything could have been avoided if we had told them from the beginning. To be frank though, who's Frank, I honestly never expected them in my house. They do not have the address, and they live overseas. Edit to clarify, my husband and I are currently 36 and 32 respectively. I was 23 when we were married, and he was 27. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. 1. I kept a pretty big secret from my parents about my life, and 2. I expected the worst from my parents, expecting them to want me to store their stuff without giving them the benefit of the doubt. And now in the comments, their reaction demonstrated that your fears were justified. Rather than being happy for you, they were miserable for themselves. Ugh, not the asshole. The hypocrisy of, our relationship has been good recently, so how could I have kept this secret from them? From the person who was in town for a month without telling OP is particularly rich, right? And their main complaint was that they could have been using their daughter's house for storage all of that time. It is so absurd. They were put out that she had not made herself available for them to exploit the way they had grown accustomed to doing while she was younger. Therefore, she has betrayed their trust, and yet they couldn't be bothered to tell her they were in town for a month, just in case she hadn't asked for a few hours of their time. Not the asshole. Why do I have a feeling that OP's parents are going to show up with a U-Haul van demanding to use her house as free storage? It's a really weird twist of fate that occurred and made them know about the house. You decide what information you share with who, and it's your house, so your rules. How could I have kept this secret from them? My husband and I were selfish to have all this space with no regard for the fact that they are renting a storage unit. They were in the country for a month and didn't tell you. It shows how they're interested in your life. Also, exactly like you predicted, they want to use your house as a storage unit. Not the asshole. The reason your relationship with your parents has been so much better recently is because you have boundaries on what information you share with them due to their behavior. Share what you're comfortable with, which might be very little. Low or no contact with your parents is also totally acceptable. If your parents want to be a part of your life, they have to accept that you only share what you are comfortable with. And now on to the update. First and foremost, after my husband had practically forced my parents out of the house, he and I sat down and had a bit of a chat about our options moving forward. From his perspective, he has watched me struggle with my parents for years, and he thinks that we have given them more than enough opportunities to behave in a fair and reasonable manner. I said that I had hoped them moving overseas would mean that we could have a relationship on equal terms, rather than them imposing their rules on us. But that has clearly not happened. I also spoke to my husband about my general feeling of abandonment when it comes to my parents, which is why I worked so hard to keep them happy. I've spoken about this quite a lot to my therapist, and I think the time in our lives has come for me to stop trying to force a relationship with toxic people. It is unfair to me, it is unfair to my husband, and it will be unfair to our future family. On that note, we have some very exciting news. I just found out that I'm pregnant. We will wait until I'm 3 months before we start telling people, but I'm so excited that I couldn't resist telling all the kind people who helped me out so much the other day. I also had a bit of a chat to Dee, who was a bit of a deer in the headlights the other day, just to answer some questions that I was asked a few times in the comments. Now, if Dee is a childhood friend, why would she invite your parents to your house? Surely she would know the situation. Answer: Dee and I grew up together, but unfortunately lost touch after high school, and we only recently reconnected, maybe 2 or so years ago, and in that time, I have not really had much to do with my parents. Dee remembers how my parents treated me as a child, and she knows that they now live overseas, but I don't often talk about them. The next question was, why would Dee invite anyone, let alone my parents, to my house? Well, when Dee ran into my parents, they told her that I had already invited them to dinner that same day, but it would be a nice surprise if they showed up early with her. She had no reason to not believe them, and was under the impression that they would be welcome into my home if I'd already invited them. Question: is Dee a busybody or a crap stirrer who intentionally invited your parents, knowing the chaos that would ensue? Well, Dee is one of the sweetest people that I've ever met, and she comes from a very functional and loving family. While she remembers the mistreatment that I endured as a child, she always assumes the best of people, and I figured that for every bad thing she saw, there were also good moments. Dee's biggest sin in life is naivety. The next question was, did I get upset at Dee, and did Dee get caught in the crossfire when my parents arrived? Ever since I was a child, when my parents yell or get generally upset at me, I just shut down. I struggle to even look at them in the eye, let alone get involved in the yelling. When my mum walked through the door and started getting upset, I mostly stood there in silence. Dee stood around in awkward silence, exactly like when we were children, until my husband showed up, and Dee mouthed to me that she was leaving and slipped out the door. She also sent me an apology text that night saying that she had no idea and did not bring them to start a fight. I realize that I need to be a bit stronger when it comes to my parents, and I'm so grateful that my husband always stands up for me against the bullying, which is probably why they don't like him, but it is incredibly difficult for me to say anything to them in those moments. This is something that I'm working on in therapy. The juiciest gossip of all is that my parents were in town for my sister's wedding. My sister and I are not close at all, based entirely on the fact that she loves the attention that my parents give her, and has never once tried to say anything to them about their mistreatment of me. But I didn't even know that she was seeing someone. Anyway, looks like I'm the black sheep in their family, and am not really wanted, but my wonderful husband is all I need. For now, he and I have gone no contact with my parents and my sister, although my sister seems to have imposed that on me anyway, and we will focus on our new baby. I have been planning all the beautiful fruits and veggies that I'll plant in the new garden, and we're thinking about painting the baby's room in a couple of weeks. Dee also dropped off some of her delicious homemade jam, and life goes on. Thank you again to everyone who offered advice and or left a compassionate comment. And now in the comments, as soon as your parents find out about the baby, they are going to absolutely lose their crap. They'll be pounding on your door, demanding access to their grandbaby. They will love bomb the hell out of you until you give them access, and then threaten to sue you for grandparents' rights. You'll get whiplash from all of the back and forth. You'll need to be aware of this, and take time to prepare for it. Only tell people you absolutely trust about the pregnancy. If it gets back to your parents, they are gonna go apeshit. I'm so glad that your husband is so supportive and has a shiny spine. I am equally happy to hear that you are working on your issues in therapy. I'm proud of you, OP. What in the world? So it's terrible for OP to not say they moved, but it's completely fine they're in town for her sister's wedding and not even invite her? They're just upset that they can't dump their crap at OP's house instead of paying for storage. They'll say or do what it takes to manipulate OP to get what they want. Hypocrites don't see any barriers to such things. Hell, they did say they had moved. They just didn't say that they bought instead of rented, or that their place was nice. But OP mentioning that her parents thought that they had moved just because the new place was more convenient to her husband's work. The point is that they're supposed to keep them informed when the family didn't even invite them to the wedding or let them know that they were in town. I guess the parents lied and tricked Dee into bringing the house with her. What psychopaths give OP crap for secrets when they'd been in the country for a month to attend her sister's wedding that she wasn't even invited to? Absolute hypocrites. Lamau at the parents with the "I thought we were doing good, why keep the secrets?" You mean like a golden child getting married? Also, OP called it when she said that part of the reason why she didn't tell them Spacewise was because of the storage unit. Parents find out, boom, storage unit complaint. Almost like they haven't grown as people at all. And she still questioned if she'd made the right decision. I guess that's what a lifetime of abuse does to a person. That is exactly what a lifetime of abuse will do to a person, especially childhood abuse from parents and guardians. Doesn't even have to be a lifetime. A close relationship with a narcissist will have you questioning yourself almost immediately, and it's scary how hard it can be to find your way back after getting lost in that kind of psychological abuse. Our next post is titled, "My friend seems to enjoy finding ways to humiliate me." They are both 27 female. So I've known my best friend Mary, which is not her real name, for about 7 or 8 years now. I've had her back through tough times, and she's had mine. The rest of this post might make her sound bad, but honestly, she's not a bad person. She's a kind and caring friend. But there is one thing I've noticed that she does a lot lately that I don't understand. She seems to keep finding ways to make me feel humiliated. Recently, I was at her place, and she came out from the bathroom, sighed, and said, "This is awkward, but every time you use my toilet, you pee on the floor. I'm sorry, I didn't want to say, but I'm tired of cleaning it up." I was genuinely shocked and embarrassed, and I believed her. It's not a problem that I've ever had anywhere else, but maybe I was careless, or there's something about her toilet that makes me stand up funny. Next time I used it, I was very careful, and I made sure that I checked the floor after I was done. It was perfectly dry, so I washed my hands and left. 10 minutes later, Mary uses the bathroom, comes out and says, "You peed on the floor again." But I didn't. I checked the floor very thoroughly after I used the toilet. It was dry. I told Mary this, and she shrugged and said, "Okay, if that's what you want to tell yourself." Huh, gaslighting? Do you hear yourself right now? Is that another one of those funny little words you keep making up? Ha! If that's what you want to keep telling yourself, then yeah, be my guest. I recently began trying to learn Spanish. I've been working really hard, doing 3 to 4 hours of personal study every night, and attending private lessons. Every time I mentioned something that I learned to Mary, she would correct me. Which was weird because A, her Spanish is the same beginner level as mine, and B, I know just enough to be able to tell her that she's usually wrong. But I just let it go and figured maybe she was right in a different Spanish dialect. We went to a Spanish language cafe so I could practice, and I wanted to order hot chocolate, but I wasn't sure of the word for it. I was about to get out my phone to check, but Mary said, "It's chocolate gaseosa." That didn't sound right, but my Spanish is still beginner level, and the waiter was coming, so I went with it. The waiter looked completely confused and kind of amused, and we muddled through a conversation where we finally worked out what I actually wanted. Looked up what Mary had told me, and she told me to say fizzy chocolate for some reason. There's a bunch of other examples I won't get into, because this post is already long. What I want to ask is, how do I bring this up with her? I don't want to fight about it, but the few times I've pointed out that she's not being truthful, or I don't agree with what she's saying, she's blown me off and been very dismissive. And now in the comments, you need to realize that she is not your friend. She isn't kind and caring, she's continually demeaning you in some way to make herself seem better. Stop participating in this relationship. I think she probably needs to put others down to feel better about herself, or she's just a cow. Either way, no true friend would do that. Distance yourself. That will eventually make you feel awful about yourself and build up resentment to her. That doesn't sound like a best friend. Why would you want to stay friends with someone like that? A true friend wouldn't do that to you. If you already brought it up to her and she brushed you off, she probably will do the same. And OP says, "This post makes her sound like a huge asshole, but she honestly generally isn't like this, and it's a recent development." If she's truly a good friend, you should be able to discuss it head on. Ask her if something has happened recently because she is constantly gaslighting and undermining you. If she's able to address it, maybe you can save your friendship. But if she isn't, I would put some space between you. I'm sorry, she's not your friend. She's got issues, and it makes her feel good to demean you. Also, is chocolate caliente the right phrase? Your commitment to study language is admirable. Now go out and find some new friends, whatever language they speak, as long as they're nice to you. And OP replies, yes, El chocolate caliente is right. At least in Castilian Spanish, which is what I'm learning, it's right. At least I know that now, I guess. And now, on to the update. Not too sure how many are interested in an update, but I thought that I'd give one anyway. Firstly, thank you to everyone who offered advice and feedback on my original post. To have confirmation that I wasn't overreacting meant a lot to me. I talked to Mary a few hours ago, and long story short, I gave her the same examples that I gave Reddit, plus a few more, and said that the way that she's been acting recently has made me feel humiliated, stupid, and small, and that since she's my friend, I was sure that that's not how she would want me to feel, so I was letting her know so we could talk it out and fix it. At first, she was very dismissive again, and said that I was making a big deal out of nothing. Ordinarily, I would have dropped it here, but after seeing how many people on Reddit agreed that her behavior was unacceptable, I decided to stick to my point. I asked her what she would want me to do if I made her feel bad about herself. Her reaction was interesting. She started getting emotional and said that she had been picking on me on purpose as a way to test boundaries in a safe way. A bit of backstory. Before me, Mary spent her teenage years in a very toxic frenemy-type friendship where she was the victim and her friend was the bully. It screwed with her self-esteem a lot, and in the first year of our friendship, I did have to keep reminding her that she didn't have to meekly agree to everything that I said, and that I wasn't going to hate her if she disagreed with me about where we go to eat or what movie to go see. Her family are also not very nice people, and she has a bad relationship with her parents. Her mother is very homophobic, and even more transphobic, and Mary identifies as queer. I'm not taking Mary's word for any of this. I knew her old friend, and I've met her mum, and they are both shitty. According to Mary, I've been the only person in her life who she trusts not to dump her or get aggressive if she, in her own words, pushes back. So she started trying to test just how much she could push me. She said she wanted to see how much I cared about her as an affirmation that someone in her life did care for her unconditionally. At first, I was sympathetic because I understand what it's like to feel like nobody has your back and nobody really loves you. But after our conversation, I've been thinking about it more, and I've been starting to feel more and more angry. There's a difference between pushing boundaries and being straight up cruel to someone. Pushing boundaries is a toddler refusing to eat their veggies to see if dad will let him get away with it. Not a 27-year-old woman lying to her friend that she pissed on the floor to intentionally humiliate her. I don't see why I should have to be treated like crap to make up for Mary's parents and former friends being assholes. So that's where I am now. I still care about Mary, she's still important to me, but I'm rethinking how much importance I want to put on our friendship and how much time I'll spend with her going forward. Maybe that proves her right that our friendship isn't unconditional, but I don't want to be the doormat that she wipes her feet on when they feel mucky. And now in the comments, no one's love is unconditional because it would require there being no boundaries. Boundaries are good and healthy, and loving someone also doesn't require accepting specific types of treatment or forgiving them. I think her excuse that she's testing you is BS. Whether subconscious or not, she wanted to hurt you. Maybe because she doesn't feel she deserves the type of friendship you two have, maybe jealousy over something else. It doesn't really matter the why, it matters that she did it. I'd personally take a massive step away from her. You might, in time, feel you can resolve it if she does work on changing, but there's no need to subject yourself to smoothing things over for her sake, or worse, more of this shitty behavior. So, she went from being bullied to becoming a bully. That's pathetic. Humiliating your friend to see how unconditional the friendship is toxic. It says a lot about her as a person, and people like her are draining and selfish. I'm glad you confronted her, and now it's time to distance yourself. Realize she will turn the situationship and make herself the victim. Good on you for knowing your worth and knowing when to walk away. That takes strength. It's not gaslighting, it's gaseosa. Akio bum. Mary's an idiot. Every friendship is conditional, every relationship, be it parent, child, romantic, friendship, everything is conditional. It sounds to me like neither Mary nor the OP understand what unconditional love is, which is not surprising given Mary's upbringing and OP's apparent crippling insecurity. Unconditional love means that you pursue the other person's best interest. It means you continue to love them and wish the best for them even when you have to distance yourself from bad behavior, because it is not in anyone's best interest to allow people to behave badly. It means that you hope for the best and would pursue reconciliation if possible. Unconditional love does not mean having zero boundaries or accepting abuse. You see this a lot in parents of people who have committed horrible crimes. They still love their children, but they can't deny their children's crimes. It's human nature to love and care for your offspring. In general, obviously it's not universal because people suck, so I always feel bad for the parents in these situations, because it's a no-win. I'm not counting parents who aid and abet their kids. That's shitty behavior depending on the crime. It means that you hope for the best and would pursue reconciliation if possible. It means we're here for you when you're ready to get better, not we are here to enable you. There is no magical version of unconditional love which includes being abused. There is nothing noble in martyrdom. Mary doesn't understand that. Mary very likely sees all the abuse that she put up with as a sign that she loves more deeply and fully than other people. It's not. She doesn't. She's not special. She's a victim of abuse perpetrating a cycle and is just as capable of being the exact abuser who abused her. But that's scary to accept and to admit. It's easier to try and find meaning and purpose in her damage. Her damage has to amount to something for it to be good damage, but it's not. There is no such thing. She went through something awful, and now her sense of normal is broken or completely undeveloped, and now she has to do the back-breaking labor of healing from it and stopping herself from continuing it, and it's never fair. It never has a higher meaning. It's just abuse, and it's just reality. Sometimes people just literally change too. For extreme examples, you can get a brain tumor or a traumatic brain injury that strongly changes your personality. One famous example was the UT sniper who killed 17 people, including his family. He was sure that there was something physically wrong with his brain because he couldn't explain his violent impulses, and when they did the autopsy, they found that he had a tumor in just the place that might cause a person to become violent. It is much more common, though, that people change because of psychological problems or extreme stress, or they were just hiding their true self and then stopped hiding it. Am I the asshole for screwing my brothers out of the will? Now, to start off, my mum wanted me to come and talk with her about her will, and when we talked about it, she told me that she'll be leaving me only 10% of it. Most likely, it's $100K. And she'll leave the rest of it to my two older brothers who are 34 and 32. They are mentally not all there and have the mind of about a 14-year-old, so very immature, can't focus, all of that stuff. Me, on the other hand, I have a stable job that pays fairly well, and I own a joint home with my mom. We bought it together because, at that time, that was the only way that we could own a home. However, thankfully, I was smart when I bought the home, as I didn't want to be stuck with my brothers because, well, they have no filter and can be assholes. So I did a right of survivorship contract with my mom. Anyway, that's where the contention lies. She says that since I'll already have the house, that I don't need the extra money. I, on the other hand, know that they will just burn through the money within a year. For example, when one of my brothers got his stimulus check, he gave half of it to a friend who was struggling. Yeah, what an idiot. Who does he think he is, burning through his money like that? So I gave her an ultimatum. If she doesn't leave me a fair share of the money, like a 33-33-33 split, I'll kick them out of the house since they've been living here rent-free for years, and then challenge the will in court and make them have to burn through the money with lawyers' fees. Anyway, in the end, because of that, she gave in and didn't change the will. But she did tell my brothers, and the first thing they did was post on social media for all of our friends and family to see. So I've been getting hateful messages this whole time. Some of my family agrees with me though, so am I the asshole? Edit, it's not about the money. It's about the fact that every moment of my life, they've always gotten more than me. I want to be treated equally this one time. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I feel like I might be the asshole because I did threaten to kick my autistic brothers out on the streets. But like, if I feel I should be given the same money because I would be letting them stay with me. And now in the comments, quote, and make them have to burn through the money with lawyer fees. You're the asshole just for that threat. You're not entitled to anything from her will. She can leave it all to a cat shelter if that's what she wants to do. My grandfather has already said that he's leaving his house to my older uncle and his money to my younger uncle, while my dad is getting nothing in the will because my dad owns the most money out of the 3 sons. Guess how my dad reacted? He said fine because he isn't an entitled brat. The fairest thing for your mother to do would be to calculate her entire net worth, including her share of your house, and split the money in a way so that you all get 1/3 of the total value of the estate. You can give notice to your brothers if they don't want to pay rent or want them out, and that wouldn't make you the asshole. But making petty threats just because you think you deserve more than your fair share does. Or, OP, if you are that concerned about them burning through their inheritance, why not offer to help them put it in a trust that you're the executor of? You can organize it so that you get a certain percentage of the trust in exchange for managing it, and your brothers get the benefit of a steady income. This way, you're the asshole. That was blackmail, and you know it. This is the actual appropriate response to the situation, or would be if OP had the slightest concern for anyone involved in this story other than them. It could even be set up in a way that the brothers would continue getting their benefits, which in the US, at least will likely stop if they have any significant assets, such as an inheritance. You're the asshole. Kicking them out of the house, and planning to make them waste their inheritance on legal fees, is insanely vindictive. Especially since you admit in the post that your brothers are mentally challenged. The house would fairly be yours to do with as you please. By all means, evict them and regain the full value, i.e., renting it out to make money, or have it to yourself for the intrinsic value of having a home to yourself. However, to plan to evict them and plot to make them burn through the money that they'd have to use to get a new place to live and survive on is cruel. If they are mentally challenged, as you say, mentality of a 14-year-old, how are they supposed to survive once your mother is gone, if not for the inheritance? Why are you even asking if it's an asshole move to try to make your mentally challenged brothers destitute when your mother passes? Regardless of the issues you have with your brothers, you should respect your mother's last wishes. Keep the house, evict them, and move on with your life. And now, on to the update. So I had some time to think about it and cool down. I realized that I had let myself become so bitter and hateful that I was willing to destroy my mentally unstable brothers. I called my mum back up and we decided to sit down for another talk. A lot of you were wondering why she was doing a will now all of a sudden, so I asked her, and she's dying. She wouldn't tell me of what, but apparently she told my brothers 2 months ago, which almost set me off again, but I was able to remain calm. I told her that I'm tired of always having to be an afterthought, and that I was always given less because of them. However, I do want to try to move past it, and because of that, I will accept 10% of 100k. However, I want them out, and I want her gone as well. She did tear up, but the thing is, I can't have them with me, and now every time I see her, I'm just reminded of all the crap that she let me go through. We plan to discuss it in further detail soon. Many of you suggested that I seek therapy, as well I do have a lot of unresolved issues with my parents and brothers. The truth is though, every time I think of those memories, I get so angry and sad. so I'd rather just forget about those memories. I'm glad that I had this place to talk about my issues though, so thank you. And now in the comments, wait, you're kicking your mother out too? Isn't she literally dying and also owns half the house? I'd also like some clarification about this. In the last post, OP said that he paid the down payment and the mortgage. So did Mum pay into the house at all? Or was she just listed as a co-owner because she had better credit? To me, the answer makes a difference in terms of whether or not OP is the asshole. If she paid for half of the house, then it's unfair for OP to request a third of the money. If she didn't, then I think it's fair. Having said all of that, it's not great to kick your dying mother out of her home. I get needing to put space between yourself and toxic relationships, but you might regret ending things on this note once your mother is gone. Also, do you even have the legal right to kick her out? And does she have a full understanding of how wounded you feel about how you were treated compared to your brothers? I wonder if this could be a time for healing rather than revenge. He paid half of the mortgage. Presumably, his mum paid the other half. In his comments, OP mentions that when his dad died, his brothers were left mementos of their dad, but all he got was a note telling him to take care of his brothers. That, and his mum not even telling him that she was dying, but telling his brothers 2 months earlier, just screams neglect. It's no wonder why he is so bitter. Plus, not only was he expected to take care of them, but they also abused and bullied him with his own parents enabling him to. I say he's completely in the right and doesn't owe anybody anything here. I don't understand. If his brothers are not able to manage their money correctly, then why is their mother allowing them to have access to a shitload of it? Should they not get someone to keep an eye on it? And if they can't take care of themselves and she knows OP will not, it seems right to me to leave more money to them in order to not burden him. I don't know. Seems to me that some information is missing. In the original thread, he clarified that both of his brothers are autistic. His resentment towards both his parents and his brothers grew because they received preferential treatment due to their disabilities, and being told that they were receiving much more money than him might have just been the boiling point for him. On top of that, it's implied that his mother expects him to act as their caretaker after she dies and allow them to continue living with him as a condition of leaving her half of the house to him. Honestly, I get his reaction to receiving this news, and I respect his decision to distance himself from his family, but he is clearly holding on to an unhealthy amount of animosity that he needs to deal with. Our next post is titled, "Trans classmate seems fixated on me. Would it be worth reporting to our coordinator?" So we are both adults and studying in a diploma class, so we can move on to a BA. I have recently been diagnosed with autism after years of being undiagnosed. I'm not low IQ, yet I have trouble understanding people who give vague indicators and then expect me to know what their problem is, connecting emotionally with people, understanding their intentions, and passive-aggressive behavior, especially because I'm straightforward with my thoughts and intentions, such as, I don't pretend to like stuff, and I don't like to make others happy, for example, shitty music. I don't do small talk because it is senseless to me, and I say clear yes and no to things. The people running our diploma program know that I'm on the spectrum. In class, I made a group on Facebook so we can share information and potentially set up group study. My trans classmate, that I'm just going to call Kay, joined. Except she immediately started doing stuff like calling me on Facebook while I was at work, about 6 times, without asking to contact me. When I messaged her, "Why are you calling me?" she sent me walls of text for questions that she should be asking our coordinator. So I told her to email our coordinator and ignored her, especially because a lot of it was about online stuff, and I'm not talking her through steps while I'm at work. In class, she approached me by standing over my desk and saying, "I'm so sorry I offended you by calling you, because you're clearly upset." I actually didn't even think of the encounter until she approached me again 4 days later in a weird rage. Kay seems to not know how to read or something, because we can have the instructions shown to us in class, step by step, and she still can't do the basic online aspects of the study. Hence, even in person I'm showing her how to find links, announcements, etc., and that's when she started touching me, like leaning on me when I'm showing her things online, touching my shoulder, and commenting how nice my makeup is. I don't like being touched in general, but this was intentional because she keeps touching me in situations she doesn't need to touch me. Often she talks about being trans a lot, where a lot of the women in class congratulate and praise her, tell her how beautiful she is, that she is talented, and other generic compliments. Except, this happens every time we're in class at break times. I don't say anything because I don't think she is beautiful or special. Like, I cannot pretend that she is an attractive woman. I'm not going to call her ugly, but I'm also not going to tell her how beautiful she is every time she talks about herself either. Also, she can't follow basic instructions where I or someone else has to show her over and over again. One day, Kay started walking with me on the campus and talking about how she wonders if the men around the campus find her attractive. I said they could. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And then she started saying, "Oh, I'm just so ugly," and started staring at me, so I said, "Okay." And then she got angry and left. Another time, when at the campus cafe, I was watching study videos while drinking my coffee. Kay was there and started asking me how I feel about the weather. I said, "I feel nothing for it," and then went back to watching my videos. Then she was saying that I hate her and I'm rude, and then left again. I have no idea why she keeps approaching me and then bitching. There's people she hangs out with in the class anyway, so she can hang out with them. There's times she's just staring at me in class, and I ask her what she wants, and then she huffs and looks away, and then starts staring at me again. She asked me for my number, and I said no. She asked me why, and I said because I don't want to. Then I heard her trying to ask other classmates for my number. One day, Kay invited me to some LGBT festival thing while in class, which I thought was weird since we have less than an acquaintance level of a rapport. Also, I like kayaking and gardening. I don't like festivals. When I said that I don't want to go, Kay implied that I might have an issue with her for being trans, yet she's not even an afterthought when I leave class. The biggest incident happened last week after class, where I was walking in a secluded area of the grounds, which is a forest area. I actually had walked the wrong way, so I turned around and found that Kay had followed me there. She started swearing at me, but I just started at her and said, "What?" And then she was like, "I'm sorry," and then quickly walked off somewhere. So I just went back to the main area and then went home. I don't know what her deal is. Sometimes it feels like because I don't praise or try to walk with her, she makes extra efforts to approach me, but I'm not interested. She annoys me, and I don't want to hang out with her, especially because you just need eyes to read the material online, though she acts as if we're reading PhD level text, and she seems to think that I'm targeting her. We have nothing in common. And now in the comments, I think Kay is definitely someone with boundary and self-esteem issues. She is interested in you, but won't accept your disinterest and thinks guilt-tripping you into complimenting and paying attention to her will work. It's very juvenile. I think your best course of action would be to lay it all out there. You are not interested in being friends, and she should leave you alone. And OP replies, "This is why I probably won't be interested even further." Hopping on this comment to say, start writing your encounters with her down with dates and times so you have proof for any report you make to get to rightly leave you alone. This has the potential to blow up. Please save and document her excessive communications and interactions that you've had with her. It really shouldn't matter that she's trans because anyone who acts this way would be exhausting, but it will matter if she decides to make some kind of deal out of it. You need to document her harassment of you by going either to your professor, campus mental health center, and/or the entity on campus that would handle harassment claims. Yeah, you're being stalked. When you refuse to give your number to someone and they try to get it from others against your wishes, is a pretty big sign that they are dead set on showering you with unwanted attention. Following you into a secluded area to verbally accost you looks even worse. You have a hanger-on. Kay has fixated on you. You have to escalate your rejections. Simply tell her that you are not interested in any friendship with her or communication outside a professional capacity and keep escalating. She persists, report her. Yeah, when I got to the part where OP got followed into the woods, I really started to fear for the worst. That was such a weird and creepy thing to do. You can never know how people will react to being rejected. Please be careful, OP. And then Kay got mad at OP? For what? Catching her stalking? Someone needs to be made aware this is happening. Yup. And OP, if you do confront her, please let it be in a public setting. Not like getting over people involved in the conversation, but like where people can see you, so things can't escalate. And now on to the update. So we had class today. I didn't want to mention it originally, but our campus is on hospital grounds. Basically a classroom in a back building with a mock hospital. There's a forest area around the side that connects to a walking track. Other students from universities and general med students go there too to use the mock hospital. Anyway, we were practicing vital signs on each other. I moved into a small group, and we were actually going ahead with things like normal. We also were having casual discussions, testing each other, etc. Kay was sitting behind me with other classmates in one of the other subgroups. She kept trying to get my attention and for some reason monitor my behavior, like trying to tell me to stop talking when literally everyone was talking. I told her not to tell me what to do and then ignored her trying to talk to me, such as attempting to join into my conversations again and asking me which suburb I live in. Then she decided to rush me and take my vital signs by placing a pressure cuff on my arm. Briefly, when you are taking a manual blood pressure, you find the radial pulse, and you pump until you can no longer feel it. From that measurement point, you add 30. For example, radial stops at 110, so you release and then pump it back up to 140. Release and listen to a stethoscope on the brachial pulse to find the range. I know Puritans are going to try to correct me, but it's just a rough idea. Anyway, Kay skipped all of that to crank the cuff up to the 200 plus range to basically crush my arm with the cuff, and then pretended that she didn't know that wasn't correct, despite being normal with other people. I immediately addressed it with our coordinator, and I told her about the other things that happened. It turns out Kay has been harassing other students too, harmed another student in a similar way, and she's been aggressive to multiple people. We also had a type of mediation with Kay, the coordinator, me, and an educational nurse. I can't remember her main role. Kay started ranting that she was upset because she tried to being my friend, and usually everyone likes her. She's simply asking for help. She's stressed from study, and of course I'm displaying potential transphobia. I mentioned I think she's creepy and overbearing, and then there was more of a discussion among all of us. Currently, they decided on distancing us, no touching, and Kay can't approach me when I'm alone. There will be more action taken, but this only occurred today. With the other students and I, it's like Kate is trying to bully and control us, / wants to be in charge, but is too stupid to do the work herself since she can't even follow basic tasks. It's like having a blind person spit on you and then asking you to help them walk across the street. I think potentially, in a way, she's trying to target the smarter students because she wants us to do her work. She's acting like a brute and trying to demand help from us. There were times that she would come up to me on break and just shove her laptop in my face, demanding that I show her XYZ. The other thing, it's like she gets easily slighted and then needs to react back in ridiculous ways, then goes back into pretending to be nice. Addressing other things, I am not asexual, I'm attracted to attractive men that I have actual conversations with and common ground, not some aggro biatch that demands things from me and harasses me. I'm also not disclosing with Kay that I'm autistic because it's none of her crazy business. My arm still hurts and she can go F herself. I blocked her from my group and on Facebook, and I will also not allow her to join my study groups in person, and she's never going to perform vital signs on me again. No one is taking her comments of transphobia seriously, and I think she's just using it as a last resort when she's slighted to try to make you feel guilty or comply. I hope she gets kicked out of the program. And now in the comments, Glad you're taking action. Could have foreseen the transphobia accusations a mile off. Happy to hear that they aren't being taken seriously in this situation. Hope everything gets back to normal for you. Kay needs to be expelled from this program. It is horrifying to contemplate a future where she'll have caretaking, nursing, medical authority, and power over vulnerable people. Please document your injury with independent authorities, i.e., not affiliated with your campus, and also don't let your program coordinator sweep Kay's misdeeds under the rug. Hold them all accountable. Kay is either lying about not knowing how to use the pressure cuff, or your educators are incompetent. Considering the weak excuses and attempted manipulation from Kay, my money is on Kay injuring you on purpose and claiming that it was an accident. It's even more annoying because OP is being very clear about her boundaries. She is so angry by the end of the post that I can't imagine how this classmate still has the frickin' audacity to approach her. More than audacity. She had no repercussions. Not serious, at least. I've met people like this, and it's a nightmare. The need to be in everyone's spotlight all the time, not just there, but admonished and coddled and accommodated. Anything less is a direct insult and must be corrected. Like, what's wrong with you not openly loving everything about me and letting me take priority over everything? Especially if it's from someone they feel owes it to them. It is so hard to deal with, especially in a shared setting like work or school, because you can't just ignore them in person, or they will escalate the intrusion or bullying until they get acknowledged. OP has my deepest sympathies. Ugh, there was this one girl in my PhD program who got diagnosed with depression for a very valid and gut-wrenching reason for which she has my deepest sympathy, but the day that she got her diagnosis, she came to the grad study lounge and announced it to several of us. Keep in mind that this is the anthropology department, which is full of neurodivergent weirdos trying to understand the human condition. We basically all looked at her and said, "Congrats, join the club," and went back to studying because it's the study lounge. She then went to every single other group there until finally someone did the "oh, you poor thing" sympathy dance that she had been looking for. I do not miss her in the slightest. And our next post is another update to a previous story that we covered a few days ago, titled, "Am I the asshole for helping my brother run away from his wedding?" 2022 catch-up. Hi Colt, we should catch whoever still wants to know what's going on with the cult up. Not to lose the rhythm, first some points. Due to popular demand, yes. Our native language is Spanish. Adoptions are final in our country and are done by the government, and we rarely get situations like open adoptions. Joe and Anna had been on waiting for a bit since they decided that is how they wanted to have kids together. I said Habemus, as in, like, when they announced the Pope. We are now 35, 33, and 29. HB was supposed to mean husband, but I love the huge idiot interpretation. It works both ways, honestly. Joe and I moved as we planned last year. The year has been pretty good, just minor drama around. Daniela can still go F herself though. Anyways, let's do the kind of bad news first. Daniela came back with a swing that we were not expecting. She is pregnant and claims to whoever would listen that Sam is the dad. Sadly for her, it is literally impossible for him to be the father since he was not even in the country when the baby would have been conceived. But she had no way of knowing that. Sam has offered repeatedly to have a paternity test done, but she refuses. Sam is safe legally, but he just feels bad for her baby. Daniela's dad did sue Sam for emotional distress of two of his daughters. Daniela and the one boyfriend left, but nothing happened since Joe dealt with it. Surprise, Joe is a lawyer. It is relevant info for this catch-up, I promise. Sam decided not to do anything against him since he has too much on his plate, and he feels pity for the family. Mother still insisted on meeting baby, but that will never happen. She undusted one of her favorite tactics. She has cancer. She contacted Joe and Anna through their work emails and begged them to help out with meeting the baby since she is so sick, most likely would need a transplant of something, etc. You see, this is like the 5th time that she's had cancer, but in reality, she has had cancer a total of 0 times. She loves the attention, the suffering, the drama, and all of that good stuff that bad people like to bring out of others. We never believed her, of course, but what we didn't expect was that she would make a fool of herself when she contacted Anna's mum on Facebook. Anna's mum is a lovely, good Catholic lady, so Mother must have assumed that she would be easy to manipulate. She told her about her cancer and how heartbroken she was to not meet baby. Anna's mum proceeded to ask a couple of questions about the diagnosis and treatment, which made no sense, as expected. Then she blocked her and posted the screenshots on her wall. It's like high school drama, only with older folks, and has hilarious comebacks. Baby is otherwise very happy, very healthy, and the only controversy regarding her was the question of what Rita would be called. Not by Rita, but by our mother, who claimed that Rita had no right to be called Grandma. Joe and Anna talked with Rita, and they all agreed for all intents and purposes that she is Grandma Rita, and Mother can do nothing about it. Sam is doing well. He quit his job and is starting something on his own. He's still living at the family home, renting the other house, and is kinda seeing someone. She's nice, knows about all the stuff, makes amazing cakes, knows how to knit, and we like her. So we are both positive and cautious. They are taking it slow, but it is nice to see him with someone like this. He also kept on painting rooms with Dad, and the results are, please remember that I love these two, embarrassingly funny, ridiculous, and like something you do in kindergarten. Dad got COVID, first time, and he got so scared that he decided to update his will. That's why Joe's profession is important. They wanted Sam and I to know about it when they finished it up. Everything he owns is divided in 4. His 3 kids, and the other quarter to any grandchildren. However, the family house is not to be divided and is going to be put in my name soonish. I was a bit confused, but Joe and Dad discussed it and wanted me to have it if and only if Sam agreed. He did, and is very happy about it. They didn't really offer many explanations other than it was the right thing to do. I sense a little because I'm the baby there, but it's okay. Joe bought a house in the same neighborhood as our family home, thus even if we're not in the same block or anything, they are close by. We, Matt and I, are not buying anything anymore since I'll be getting the house, as it would just make no sense. We moved to the family home, and it's been interesting, but nice. Dad has started semi-retirement and spending more days at Rita's, so it works out for everybody. Sam will of course get to stay there as long as he wants, but his murals would have to go. We are still engaged, still happy, still enjoying babysitting, and still not pregnant, but we got a cat during the spring. We're planning a December wedding and couldn't have asked for a better end of the year. So that's it. No drama, or at least not huge drama. We are moving forward and healing continuously, which is the way that we like it. Anyways, greetings from the cult, and we wish you all a good last few months of 2022. And now in the comments, didn't Daniela already try the pregnancy angle and had it publicly blow up in her face? Who the F would believe her this time? Well, that's because she actually is pregnant, which means it's easier to sell the lie. Who wants to bet she had sex with some poor guy just so she could go after Sam? OP replies, we have a theory about who the dad is, but we're waiting for the paternity test to drop that one. Is it the other sister's ex? Oh, we wish. That would actually bring it full circle. No, we actually believe it's one of her former co-workers, who is like 50 and married. Wait, didn't he already say that he didn't want to be tied to a toxic family? OP says, not that we know of, but he is 50 and married. I wish my family was this close. What an awesome family to be from. I love this family so much. Such a great sense of humor. And OP says, this is lovely. Gratitude. Daniela is the biggest drama llama that I've ever seen in my life. God. It seems like this woman enjoys drama so much that if drama was a food, She'd have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and possibly midnight snack. Good to see that the cult is doing good. And OP replies, "We believe she's actually obsessed with Sam. We dread the moment she realizes he is dating again, but we're taking baby steps. Thank you. We are very happy." Am I the asshole for wanting to wear a suit for my wedding? So for my high school graduation, I received a tailored suit. Before then, I had been a chronic t-shirt and jeans kind of girl, having one ugly black dress to wear for weddings, funerals, parties, bar mitzvahs, and just general events. I hated it. I hated making an effort to dress up, and even now, I still really don't like skirts or dresses at all. But I absolutely fell in love with the way that I looked in a suit. I wore that suit like it was a second skin. Since then, I've been a little bit obsessed with men's fashion. I have at least a dozen suits of various models, fabrics, and colors. All of them are bespoke, meaning that they were made from scratch and personally fitted, which is admittedly rather expensive. But I use them frequently, both for work and socially, and I take very good care of them. None of them are what you would call a woman's pantsuit, as I'm not very fond of the cut, but simply regular suits tailored to my figure. My fiancé, of about 5 years, normally doesn't comment much on my style. There used to be some arguments in the beginning, where he would buy me skirts or earrings as gifts. I don't even have pierced ears. But eventually he accepted the fact that I'd have more use of a good pair of cufflinks, or a ring, or just pretty much anything else. We've booked the venue for our wedding on a date a little over a year from now, and we have been throwing around some wedding ideas here and there. Yesterday, I asked him if he had any ideas about what kind of suit he wanted. He doesn't really care about fashion, and normally lets me dress him. But I wanted to know if I should book my regular tailor for both of us or not, so that we could perhaps go get fitted together. Make a day of it, you know? My fiancé was very shocked that I wasn't going to get a wedding dress. I was very shocked that he thought that I would, since I haven't worn a dress in at least 10 years. We've been arguing since last night, and neither of us have really calmed down yet. He is furious that I wouldn't even wear a dress for a single day for our wedding, and claims that our wedding would look ridiculous if I had a suit, as if he was marrying a lesbian in denial, and that all he wanted was a wedding with a beautiful bride. I told him that he should wear the dress so that I didn't have to have a wedding with an ugly groom. We tried to talk it out earlier today, but we were still too mad to get anywhere, so we've decided to not bring it up right now. But I know that he hasn't changed his opinion, and obviously neither have I. I have always wanted to wear a suit for my wedding, and even if it's just for a day, I would still have a bunch of photos and memories, probably even the dress, so I wouldn't just forget that I couldn't have the wedding that I wanted. Am I the asshole? And now in the comments, I don't think you should marry someone who hates your choice of fashion. Info, why hasn't this come up sooner? And OP replies, I'm pretty sure it has. I used to send him a lot of wedding pictures, including women getting married in suits. But since, well, they were all lesbian weddings, I guess he thought it was more of an aren't weddings nice kind of thing, rather than a this image applies to me, even though I intend to marry you, a man. Maybe he didn't think that I was serious until I started talking about booking a suit fitting. So you were sending him photos of different wedding attire, but never once said, I want to wear a suit like this when we get married. This. If you didn't say that, it sounds like he took the photos of lesbian weddings the wrong way, given his closet lesbian comment. Yeah, I think his closet lesbian comment was tactless, but from OP's comment above, I can see where his suspicions come from. You think that it makes sense that when his girlfriend, who regularly wears suits, sent him pictures of women getting married in suits, he assumes that she was trying to come out as a lesbian in the most bizarre way ever, rather than that she liked wedding suits? I don't think that she was trying to come out, but clearly he didn't get what she was getting at since she never told him, and his comment indicating lesbians are the ones who wear suits, sometimes at weddings, isn't far off, considering she's been sending him pictures of exactly that. It's odd. It's really not odd. She wears suits regularly, which is uncommon for straight women, so she likely looks at queer fashion regularly for inspiration. There is no reason he would suddenly get confused about whether or not she's a lesbian based on this. Everyone sucks here. People have covered why your fiancé is an asshole, but I feel like you're playing dumb when you say that you were shocked that he wanted you to wear a wedding dress at your wedding. You have every right to deviate from the norm, but you've been engaged this long and you never thought to mention that you didn't want to wear a wedding dress? I never wear dresses isn't an excuse. Many dudes never wore a tux in their lives, but they still do at their wedding. Again, you can wear what you want, but if you don't care how your partner feels about it, why are you marrying him? I feel like your tux comment is a bit of a false equivalence. It's more like asking him to wear a kilt, which is completely foreign and completely reasonable to say hell no to. Dresses and pants feel very different to wear and require very different levels of vigilance to avoid wardrobe malfunctions, especially big puffy wedding dresses that often put the bride in the position of needing help going to the bathroom. And now on to the update. I decided on suggesting that I wear a dress for a while during the wedding before changing into a suit, so we had a talk after dinner. Long story short, he hates my suits. Hates them. I think I kind of knew already that he didn't like them, or at least he's never complimented me, but he absolutely hates them. Hates that I don't have any feminine clothing, hates that I never pierced my ears, hates that I don't wear makeup very often, and that I don't really shave my legs regularly, and that I don't have any nice bras, and that none of my hobbies are very feminine. He hates that I only look like a woman when I'm naked. We didn't raise our voices. We didn't shout. I just listened as he calmly told me how much of me that he hates. The fact that I didn't want to dress for our wedding was just the nail in the coffin, and it proved that I would never get any better. And now in the comments, well, easier to cancel a wedding than to get a divorce. Agreed. Every cancelled wedding is an averted divorce, and therefore a blessing. But how wild is it that they've made it all the way to the point of deciding to get married, while he was hating so much of how she looked, acted, and dressed every single day? Like, who did he think that he was marrying? Apparently, her 5 years of dressing like a lesbian in disguise was just a phase in his mind. Not a nice attitude toward the woman you love. She deserves better. I can't imagine dating someone whose aesthetic you hate so much, or staying with someone who would buy me skirts that I didn't want and earrings while I didn't have my ears pierced. I mean, the red flags were clearly there. Yeah, those weren't gifts, they were hints. Hints. That's a neat way to spell non-verbal directive, because that is clearly what he thought they were. My ex would buy me clothes in the style that his older sister wore from the same store. He also said that he didn't date blondes and prefers brunettes since all of his sisters are blonde. I'm blonde, and so is his ex. He also told everyone repeatedly about how his sister would crush all of the siblings' heads with her thighs because she was a strong volleyball player. I don't know, but I think he wanted to date his sister. My grandmother was married in a suit. Sure, it did have a skirt, but it was a sharp, tailored suit. Beautiful cream number. This was something like 60 plus years ago. She and my mother have an ongoing joking argument that my mother wants to take the suit after my grandmother dies, to which my grandmother says good luck. She's planning to be buried in it. And my mother replies that she's not opposed to some light grave robbing. This conversation is a holiday tradition, and it's always funny. Anyway, dude has some pretty major issues. Did he think that if she wore a dress at the wedding that she would magically become more feminine overnight? Her aesthetics and hobbies would just change? Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my daughter that she cannot marry a racist?" So for some background, my wife and I worked and lived in a somewhat larger city where my daughter was born. My wife got a job opportunity in one of her employer's field offices, and it was too good to pass up. We moved to the boonies when my daughter, Amy, was a preteen, and we've been here ever since. The people are nice, but we were quickly labeled as city folk, and so we never really integrated very well. Amy came back this summer between her freshman and sophomore year. She got a summer job, which is where she met her fiancé, Dan. We have had him over to the house countless times since then, and he's polite, respectful, and he seems to truly love my daughter. He is a local, and his family have been locals for generations. We rarely met up with his parents, but they also seemed nice when we did. They dated long distance all throughout her college years. This past summer, they got engaged. His parents decided to throw an engagement last weekend at their house. We had never been there, and I was excited to see the home where he grew up and meet his extended family. The party was fine. We did our best to fit in, but, like I mentioned, we were from the city, and they poked fun just a little bit. His dad gave a speech, and while it wasn't overtly racist, he mentioned how he was happy that his son found a nice white girl and was looking forward to white grandbabies. As the night progressed, they started to share a bit of family history so that we would know the proud lineage that our family would now be a part of. Without going into too much detail, they are descendants from members of a hate group. We decided to be polite and not say anything, but we didn't stay much longer. I let this stew for a few days until Amy returned home. She tells me that she was not aware of his family history, but it doesn't change her mind. I don't want her marrying into this family, and I told her so. She says Dan doesn't wholly believe what his parents do, but I'm not convinced. You can't be raised to believe that you're of a superior race and not have it become internalized to some degree. She assures me that they have a lifetime for her to point out all the ways his parents are wrong, but I am worried that if they never leave his hometown, there will be too much pushback from his family. I told her that I'm going to be firm on this, that I don't want her marrying into that family. She called me an asshole and has been ignoring me ever since. I feel horrible, but this isn't what I'd hoped for her. So is she right? Am I being an asshole? And now in the comments, you would be the asshole. Your heart is in the right place, and you can voice your opinions against it, but at the end of the day, it'll be her choice. I would advise talking to Dan himself, in private if possible, though I'm a black person myself, and you would be surprised how often the least racist kids come from the worst parents. And edit, I just want to add that you would be totally within your rights to explain to her that you do not want any of those traditions passed down to any potential grandkids. I shudder to think how those people react to a grandchild dating a person of color. How will the daughter and son-in-law handle that? What if they can't have kids and adopt a person of color? If the kids have a plan for that kind of stuff, maybe they'll be okay. These are all legitimate potential problems. It all comes down to how the daughter and Dan handle these situations. Ultimately, they will decide what values they want to embrace and pass on, and I'm sure the grandparents will make anything progressive a nightmare, but it would be unfair to blame Dan for his parents' failures as human beings, and you can't expect society to become more tolerant by denying people the chance to break away from the shitty opinions of the generation before them. Agreed. I used to work in a middle school and dealt with some very overtly racist parents whose kids just wanted to date or hang out with their school friends of other races, and thought of all sorts of clever ways to subvert the parents. That being said, it is telling that the fiancé didn't say anything or try to stop his father. Not the asshole. Ultimately, your daughter is an adult and can and will do whatever she wants, even if it means marrying a racist. But you are obviously within your right to abhor racism and make that stance clear. In fact, this is the kind of reaction to racism that you and everyone should have, especially when it still runs so deeply and rampantly like in Dan's family. You are right that racism has been ingrained into Dan, and from what your daughter says, he doesn't wholly believe what his parents do, and that she has a lifetime to convince Dan that racism is wrong. I think she knows that too. It will be very difficult, but you may have to come to terms with the fact that your daughter is accepting of this disgusting ideology, evidenced by the fact that she wants to marry into it, and adapt your relationship with her to that fact, whatever that looks like. At the same time, while you can't limit her, you certainly are not the asshole should you opt to distance yourself and have no part in paying for or attending the wedding. It comes down to how bothersome the racism is to you and how you want to reflect that in your actions going forward. which may look like a tough decision between your relationship with your daughter and your commitment to your morals and principles. And now on to the update. Some asked that I update when I could. A lot has happened the past few weeks, so I thought that I would share. Not long after I posted, Amy came to me to apologize. I was surprised because, based on the responses I was getting, I was preparing to apologize to her. She said she lashed out because she was trying to reconcile her relationship as she knew it with the new information about who he was. I asked her if she really had no idea, and she said that, looking back, there were warning signs, but nothing that would lead her to believe that he was overtly racist. I guess being long distance and liking him so much allowed her to remain mostly ignorant. She wanted to know what she should do, and I told her that I was going to talk to Dan and try to get a beat on who he is, apart from his parents. She seemed to think that that was a good idea. A lot of people said that I was being unfair labeling him a racist before, but now that we have spoken, I can tell you for certain that he is a racist. A lot of you were trying to figure out what Amy meant by him not being wholly racist, and I think I can answer that now. He told me that he doesn't harbor any hatred for anyone, but he believes the white race will go extinct eventually, and he is proud of who he is and of his race, and he doesn't want that to happen. Which I guess also explains his father's comments about white grandbabies. I told him that his heritage is nothing to be proud of, and that his beliefs will have no place in our family or in my household. He said that Amy seemed to understand him, and that I might have no choice of whether or not his beliefs will be a part of my family. I said that he was right. If Amy wants to move forward with the wedding, then there is nothing that I can do to stop her. He sneered, and told me that he supposed that we had nothing more to discuss, and that that was the end of it. I then told Amy what him and I discussed, and she decided to call it all off. She broke up with him, and he has not taken too kindly to it. He's been to the house a lot, so we decided to get her an apartment back in the city. Her work is going to start phasing back into the office anyway, so the timing works out. His parents called us and came to speak with us a few times. At first, they were just trying to figure out what was going on, but it quickly turned into them berating us. I got some Reddit flack for not standing up to them initially, so this time, I made sure they knew where I stood. And now in the comments, well, this is horrifying, but also a huge relief. Amy found out now. She sought out counsel from someone that she trusted, and Dan showed his ass and made her decision really easy. Good for you for keeping the lines of communication open in your family so that Amy knew she could come to you for support and advice. Definitely. I'm so glad the daughter dodged a bullet. OP handled this amazingly. I agree. And why are the parents so invested with him being with a city girl? They've come over multiple times? I think either OP has money, or they think that her family does. Or just more money than they have. I can't think of any other reason these parents are so tied up in this, except maybe their son being upset. But wouldn't they be glad that he's not with someone who doesn't share their values? There is another reason here, and I bet that it's money. They obviously already looked down on OP's family for being city, so what other reason would these people be all up in this? Money and maybe appearances? They threw an engagement party, so people are probably wondering what happened, on both sides. If Amy decides to be very honest with, turns out that I wouldn't be the only one wearing white fabric over my face on the wedding day, rather than a diplomatic, we have different visions for our future, so I think it's best that we go separate ways, it won't look great for the family. Also, the idea their precious pure boy was rejected? Fetch the smelling salts! Pride, the white and normal kind, is a hell of a drug. I decided that I wanted to wear a white veil at my wedding, not a white hood. OP, if they decide to become more confrontational, I suggest getting a Ring doorbell and camera just in case things escalate. If they are small-minded country folk, they may try to push you around through their connections, so you better be prepared for more harassment and find a good advocate like a lawyer that can help you. And OP says, we are having cameras installed this week, so we're just a bit ahead of you there. It hasn't been too bad so far, Just Dan crying on our front lawn and his parents going on about how we are in the wrong. I'm hoping that this is as far as it goes, but I'm prepared in case it gets worse. I hate to say it like this, but sounds like the parents of Dan are more upset that they have lost breeding stock to push their BS. Any other women Danny Boy has ever dated never tolerated their BS, and they're getting desperate to continue the line. That's the vibe that I'm getting from them. Amy is really fair-haired, and I think they saw her as being more white because she's blonde. Quote, I got some Reddit flack for not standing up to them initially. Frickin' am I the asshole demanding that everyone stamp around in size 20 boots straight out of the gate? This is his daughter's future that he's talking about. You have got to get the lay of the land, understand who you're talking to, and where they're coming from. You know, read the room. It's no good berating people from the back of the party about how they're all disgusting racists. That just makes you look out of control and dismissible. You have to manage things to the end. It's not like anything he said was going to change the mind of morons just because he has a mouth. What he actually did got out of the madness and took his daughter with him, which wasn't guaranteed from the outset. I'm from the boonies. My town doesn't have a stoplight, let alone sidewalks or city water. If you are city folk at a party hosted by a local openly racist family, standing your ground is the wrong thing to do, period. It could easily become dangerous. Suggesting that OP should have said something then is a very city folk thing to say. Yeah, I'm from a northern bumfrick town, and that's how you get the crap kicked out of ya. Way more bar brawls started over talking crap in a place like that than people think. Hell, even if it doesn't immediately escalate, there's a good chance that you'll get a glass mug shattered over your skull as you're walking to your car. Am I the asshole for throwing out my child so they aren't a liar? Apologies. I do not want anyone I know in real life to know that I posted this, so I'm keeping details as vague as possible. If there's some information that is absolutely essential for making an unbiased judgment, please let me know and I will try and respond. I'm referring to my child as S in an attempt to limit personal details. I'm in my late 50s and have several children. This post is about my second oldest, S, who is in their early 20s. My neighborhood is very friendly, and someone is basically having a get-together every week. I was talking with the hosts when a close friend approached me and said that she needed to talk to me urgently. I didn't understand what she was talking about at first, saying things like the importance of being open-minded and tolerant, but after several iterations, it became more clear. S was telling people that I had kicked them out because of their identity as part of the LGBT community. I didn't believe this at first because 1, S had never mentioned anything like this, and 2, I was still paying for all of S's things, and S is living at home after graduating college. My friend then showed me S's social media posts, where many people were congratulating S on their bravery and empathizing with dealing with discriminative parents. As a mother, there is nothing worse imaginable than my child getting hurt. I have read many terrifying stories of people suffering heavily from cyberbullying and social media scandals. I knew that people would quickly find out that S had lied. We have frequent house guests and well-meaning but nosy neighbors. And I couldn't guarantee that my other children wouldn't get upset and expose S on social media. So I asked our maid for the contact of her brother who runs a moving company, and I had all of S's things put on the sidewalk, and then I changed the password. All of the doors of the house have a digital lock. In short, I made what S said true. A few hours later, S messaged me furiously, demanding to know what I was thinking. I said that I didn't want to make a liar of them, so I kicked them out like they had told everyone. S started screaming and crying that I was an asshole and that was different. Did I make a mistake? In the spirit of full disclosure, I am not on the autism spectrum, but due to an incident in my childhood that left me with severe physical and mental trauma, I have had issues with appropriate social etiquette in the past and understanding norms. This is part of why I think I made the wrong decision. And yes, S does go to therapy, and has been going for years, since middle school on their request. We started because S said that they were feeling anxious about becoming an adult. Why I felt it was better for S to leave. While no one in my immediate circle, family and friends, has undergone social media harassment, I know several people in my second degree, friends and family of family and friends, who have undergone severe harassment for lying to the extent that some of them gave up on life entirely. I was present for one of those people's attempts to leave the world, and I don't want any of my children to go through that ever. I thought that it would be better that people curse me as an unfeeling mother than people curse at S for lying. I know that S has a large social circle and should be able to temporarily stay with them. Is S homeless now? S has a sizable trust that they have had access to since last year, and a strong social network. I do not think that anyone will turn on S as long as they don't find out the truth. How did I know for sure that it was S? Those posts include a video of S crying, so there was no way for me to deny that it was S, and it was taken very recently. Would I be supportive if S was part of the LGBTQ community? Yes. And don't I care why S lied? I do care, but I am more worried about the backlash that S will suffer if the truth is revealed. And now in the comments, not the arsehole. S is appropriating the lived pain and torment of LGBTQ people for attention. And OP replies, to be honest, I don't know whether or not S is actually part of the LGBTQ community. I tried asking them, but they haven't responded yet. Then that makes it worse, to be honest. Not the arsehole. It is absolutely horrible that S would lie like that to garner social media sympathy when so many LGBTQ people are literally thrown out of their homes for their sexuality every day. Not the arsehole, and I am absolutely surprised with some of these comments. Your child is an adult responsible for themselves. You were supporting them, and they went behind your back and lied to several people, saying you did things that you did not do. They deserve to be kicked out, and don't pay for anything at all for them after what they did. Actions have consequences. But all you did was enable their behavior. You should have posted the truth online so they could be called out for what they did. There are people that are really kicked out and living on the streets and have nothing. You do realize that you and your family could have been harassed because of your kids' lies, right? It happens all the time on social media. Someone goes on there and says something that goes viral, and then people will harass the person the video is about, literally call her job and make up complaints, post fake reviews online to ruin their business. These keyboard warriors are ridiculous and they ruin lives. Your child needs to know what they did could have ruined your life. You basically let them get away with it, and people are going to think that you really did kick them out. And now, onto the update. Thank you to everyone who has responded. I appreciate your concern. A few hours ago, S and my niece called me. It turned out that after I changed the password, S had gone to my sister's house and my niece chewed them out when they found out the full story. My reaction, as many of you have pointed out, was certainly impulsive and not necessarily the best one, but luckily things have worked out. S has been feeling very depressed for a long time, but didn't want to admit it because in their own words, my life is perfect and it didn't make any sense. Their current therapist was clearly not helping, but they didn't want to change therapists because they had become friends. My niece says that this is an ethical violation. S was finding it difficult to even get out of bed in the morning, but unable to understand why, which made them extremely self-hating. They started getting addicted to social media and saw the support and validation that some people receive there. S began by posting small comments anonymously, but really enjoyed the positive comments, and things snowballed. S apologized profusely to me and has agreed to change therapists and seek help. Some of you have suggested that S and I pretend to reconcile so S can move back in without changing their story. My niece was vehemently opposed to this. She would have preferred that S publicly apologizes and takes their licks, but given both the magnitude of the lie and S's current mental state, agrees that it would be too risky. Instead, S will be deleting their social media account and going on a permanent hiatus. While it is not possible to undo the impact of their lies, S will also be donating 80% of their trust fund to various LGBTQ foundations that support youth who have been abused or kicked out. They will also be spending their remaining free time volunteering at such organizations in whatever position they need for the rest of the year. My niece has also insisted on staying with me for the next month to dispel any rumors. And now in the comments, being depressed and not knowing how to express it is one thing. You don't get to trash your parents and throw them under the bus just because you need attention. That's why it makes me wonder the relationship between S and the therapist. It's hinted at it not being professional, but S has been going to them since they were a kid, but yet S has gotten this bad? That relationship needs to be looked at, or overall just change therapist, because something isn't working. It's not just that it isn't working, but becoming friends with a patient is an ethical violation, but it's especially worrisome if that patient was a minor. It's something I would look into, because I wouldn't want them taking advantage of any other patients, particularly minors. Honestly, glad that it worked out, but this is the weirdest thought process I've ever had the pleasure of sampling. Child lies about being disowned and slanders me on the internet? No one can ever know that this wasn't true! And then they're going to give away 80% of the kid's trust fund? Such a weird amount. My boyfriend got kicked out for being queer, and was essentially homeless for 5 months. He never made a stink about it, looked for sympathy, dragged his parents through the mud, and only told people close to him. This actually happens to people, and S using it for attention is a slap to the face for people who experience it as their reality. Our next post is titled, "My female friend brought a guy to my house while I was on vacation without my permission, and I think that they had sex in my bed." So, we are both women in our early 20s. Here is what happened. Last month, my family and I went on vacation and asked this friend to water my plants while I was gone. For context, I live with my parents. She was my best friend of 12 years who I trusted deeply, and my parents trust her too, which is why I felt comfortable giving her access to the house. She would only have to come once, and she agreed to that. The day she stopped by, I asked her to video call me so I could explain how to get into the house and explain which plants to water and how to water them, and everything seemed to go well. When I got home from my vacation, I noticed something weird about my bed. I noticed the bed had been remade and my pillows had been rearranged. My blankets, sheets, and pillows smelled like male perfume, and I noticed there were short black hairs on my pillows. It seemed like a man had been in my bed. I felt deeply uncomfortable, but I wasn't able to wash the sheets before bed as I had just come home from the airport after a day of travel. It was late at night, and I was exhausted. I slept in my bed as it was, feeling disgusted and violated to be surrounded by the smell of an unknown man. I was suspicious of her because she was one of the only people who had been in my house while my family was away. I also knew that she was casually dating and sleeping with a guy who happens to have short black hair, and she had mentioned to me a couple of weeks prior that they sometimes had trouble finding a time and place to have sex because she still lives with her parents. So, well, there was a possibility that they could have taken advantage of my space for that. I didn't think that she would do that to me though, as the only other people that had access to my house were 2 of my brother's female friends who were visiting from out of town and needed a place to stay. Long story short, I don't think that they are lying, so I'm not focusing on them. A few days later, I texted my friend explaining what I saw, and I asked her what had happened. She admitted that she brought the guy that she had been casually dating with her when she came over, and had him wait in my room while she watered the plants. Apparently, he went to sit on my bed, and he kind of jumped on it, and messed up the blankets and pillows, which was why they remade the bed. I didn't believe this. How hard did he jump onto my bed that it had to be remade? How did the smell get through the blankets and into my sheets? That's like 4 layers of fabric, if he only sat on it. How did the hair get on my pillow if he didn't put his head on it? I told her that her story seemed inconsistent with what I saw, and that it seemed like a man had been in my bed. I didn't accuse her outright of having sex in my bed at any point during the conversation, and that I felt disgusted, violated, and betrayed. She apologized and assured me again that nothing else happened. I told her that I appreciated her apology, but that I didn't believe her, and explained why in a long paragraph. She left me on read and hasn't talked to me since. She also removed me from her close friends list on social media, which is a big deal coming from her. It has been 3 weeks. I'm sad about the situation because this was a very close friend and I don't want to lose her. At the same time, I am hurt that she didn't ask me for permission to bring him over and let him in my room, hid him from me over video call, didn't tell me about it until I asked her, and that she's probably lying about what really happened to my bed. I'm not sure where to go from here. I want to reach out because I miss her and I don't want to lose her, but part of me thinks, screw it. I sent the last message. If she wants to fix our friendship, then she should message me. Advice? And now in the comments, nope, not happening. She let a stranger in your home and screwed in your bed. She's only mad because you called her out on it. People hate being called out when they're in the wrong. Personally, I would say screw it and move on from her. Totally disrespected you by having a stranger in your house. She's pissed because she got caught and they did have sex in the bed, as perfume does not get everywhere by just sitting on the bed. Be sure to tell all of your mutual friends what she did to head off her lies to the friends. The people saying forgive her are just as nasty as your friend for sleeping with someone in your bed. Any good friend would know that that's a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. That is your personal space and you trusted her. I wouldn't bother reaching out. Clearly, she is not that great of a friend. Like, if you're that close, just ask, like, can we screw there? We'll even clean everything. Damn it, at least wash the sheets. Like, it's crazy how much people are justifying this behavior. Also, are they broke? Just book a damn push. There's some dodgy ones that are cheap, or just screw in the car. Jesus Christ. I had a situation like this happen in college. My roommate let a couple sleep or have sex in my bed while I was home for the weekend. My roommate remade the bed without cleaning the sheets and then lied to me about it. She said that people sat on my bed and all the bedding fell off, which made 0 sense. I found out what actually happened because a girl who lived in the room next to me told me. I confronted my roommate, was super pissed, but eventually got over it. Personally, I think that it's something a friendship can recover from. With your friendship, though, I think it's different. I don't know if this is something that can be resolved. This is your parents' home, so there's an additional layer of disrespect. Also, you guys are in your 20s. This isn't just teenagers having sex. She's an adult and should know better. She honestly sounds super immature. And now on to the update. So there have been some new developments to the situation, and I'm now realizing that I really messed up. Here are the new developments. So I mentioned briefly in my last post that, aside from my friend, the only other people who had access to my house were 2 of my brother's female friends who were visiting the area from out of town and were given permission to stay overnight in our empty house. Up until this point, I had been pretty convinced that they had nothing to do with this. Well, I found out yesterday that they brought a guy with them, and I think he was the one who slept in my bed. No one told me this until now. I had been told that there had been no men with them, and that no one had been given permission to sleep in my room, and I believed that. I guess I shouldn't have. Anyway, I now realize that I messed up with my friend, and I think she might have been telling the truth. Now that I have the full picture, I think she stopped responding because she was probably sick of me accusing her of letting a guy in my bed and not believing her. Of course, I still think that it was wrong for her to bring a stranger to my house, let him in my room, and then hide it from me, but she owed up to it and apologized for it during our last conversation. I've decided that I'm willing to forgive her for that because she seemed genuinely apologetic. How do I fix this? I really messed up. She is my best friend of 12 years, and I'm devastated that I might have ruined our friendship over this. I feel like an idiot. I think I should reach out, but what should I say? And edit, okay fine, maybe this information isn't exactly proof that she's innocent, and even if she did not use my bed for sex, she still brought a stranger over, left him unattended in my room, and then hid the whole thing from me. I guess my new question is about whether I should accept her apology. What would it take for you to forgive a friend for this? Or would you not forgive them at all? And now in the comments, find new friends who don't bring strangers into your house. Seriously, Every friend of his in this situation brought a male stranger into his home without asking. She did put a strange man into your house. It's almost irrelevant that she didn't use your bed for sex, if that's true. She brought her hookup to your house without your prior knowledge, and then left this stranger alone in your room. Why? Why not have him wait in the car or the kitchen or the backyard? She didn't commit an act as bad as you thought, but it still wasn't cool at all. The fact that others also disrespected your space atrociously doesn't change the fact that she did too. And he jumped on the bed because, that's what he does. And it was messed up. So, they had to fix it. He was jumping on it just a little too hard, and she had to attend to all of the tasks, imposter, sus. So he was waiting and happened to wait in the room, and OP replies, "Okay, when you put it like this, her story sounds so ridiculous, lol." Okay, I guess you're right. The fact that I have new information does not necessarily absolve her of what she did wrong. To be fair, she did own up to it and apologize. I am torn about whether that's reason enough to forgive her and to try to repair things, or if I should just leave her. Quote, "She removed me from her close friends list on social media and seems to be shutting me out." I wish Burger King was still doing the unfriend 10 people for a Whopper promotion. Yup. Burger King would even send the friend that was removed a "your friendship was worth 1/10 of a burger" message. Sounds like many people had sex on this bed while OP was away. I wondered whose bed I was having sex in, and now I know. Dirty Mike and the boys moved on from that Prius to OP's house. You know what it's called when they do that in there? It's called a soup kitchen. That's a good movie, that one. Ironically, I was on the other side of this once. My husband, then fiancé, was asked to house sit for a long-time family friend. We asked if I could come with to swim in the pool. They asked that only he sleeps over, and that's what we did. I just swam and went home. No funny business. We were already living together at that point, not desperate to find a moment alone. We got accused of having sex on their kid's bed. What was their evidence? Apparently it looked like someone had been on the bed. I assume it was one of their dogs. They were the main reason my husband was house-sitting. Handcuff stains. How the hell do handcuffs stain things? Passionately. What? God, people are nasty. What is going on here? Alright, and that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.